Hi, I'm Matt from Interformula, and welcome to our Research and Development Centre. We do all forms of research and development, all the way from designing and developing our own race cars, to simulators, to running cars in racing series and rallying all over the world. We also do a lot in the Asian Classic Car Championship, so do look out for us. For any information, do contact us with the number down below.
Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to a very special round of the Rd5 iRacing Malaysia Championship Season 2 here at Spa-Francorchamps in the Kia Optimas. My name is Max Palmer. I'll be taking you right throughout this broadcast for this, a 2.4 hour race around this legendary 7-kilometer long circuit. Right now, Toyota Motorsports is the fastest in the practice session, followed by TBRT Black, Toyota Motorsports Asia, Rab ProDrive, Padawan SRC-A, Autohaus FCR Performance Team B, and Android King, Toyota SSAD. And we've been seeing some very quick lap times. Earlier on, we had another practice session, and there were reports of guys like Lloyd Lachlan getting into the 2:31, so that would be the target time for all of these guys to go out into the racing, into qualifying right now. And yeah, it's going to be an absolutely fantastic race coming up for you. Right now we're in practice session at the moment, and Saiful Arifin is the man with the quickest time out there with that 2:32.891. But rest be assured, these guys are going to turn up the heat during qualifying and really push the cars hard. Whilst we get settled in here, let's just have a quick thank you to our sponsors: Works Engineering, Lucas Oil, Precision Sim Racing, Android King, and our support for this season, the Motorsports Association of Malaysia. Right now we're having a look at the second place man, Freddie Ang, for Team URT Black. Team URT, they've got a couple of cars, in fact 3 cars in the lineup right now, and they're going to be looking for a very, very good result up ahead. Lloyd Lachlan was very quick in the 6 p.m. practice session. He's now in the third position for Toyota Motorsports Asia. Those guys will be really pushing quite hard in order to get the cars up the grid, to help out the main Toyota Motorsports vehicle, and also to improve their chances in the championship, because they've been battling for that top 3 spot all season. You can see him really pushing that car hard, with the car almost porpoising through the, as it's now known as, Brussels chicane, used to be called Rivage, and coming up to one of the most famous corners on the track, the double right, or Puhon as it's known to the locals. Fantastic sweeping section, very, very narrow in parts this track, and definitely a blast from the past. The location where just recently, in fact yesterday, Lewis Hamilton managed to secure his 6th win at this fabled circuit. So will we see another legendary performance from these guys this time around? 22 minutes have passed, 8 minutes to go in the session before we head into qualifying. Now, for those of you who've just joined us, this is our endurance round of the championship, round 5, a little bit of a special one, celebrating Merdeka Day. That is the National Independence Day of Malaysia, and as a lot of these drivers are from Malaysia, as well as the series is being based in Malaysia, we thought it would be a fitting tribute to all those men who have secured our independence. back in August 31st, 1957. So Sharon Nora-Fudin is out there in 4th place for Rad Pro Drag, and meanwhile in the Padawan camp, Faiz Aslan is in 5th place, and he is one of the top 6 who are currently lapping at a 2:33 right now. A lot of these drivers have definitely got they've definitely got their cars dialing in for the long time. So for the long endurance runs that they're going to be doing during the race. Now, for those of you who just joined us, this is a endurance race. It's a multi-driver endurance race. That's why you see only 13 drivers out on track, where we had upwards of 40 drivers in the previous rounds. That's because all of these cars are being shared amongst the drivers from their teams. So whereas Toyota Motorsports, for instance, have had 3 drivers in each race, now they have 3 drivers in 1 car, as opposed to 3 cars driving out there. I do apologize if I mispronounce this. Mahmoud Ogazan has commented with a correction. I do apologize, it was 7 wins at this track for Lewis Hamilton, so thanks for that information. If you do have any corrections or you do want to catch any mistakes, you just want to have a chat down in the comment section with other motorsports fans and sim racing fans, do leave a comment down below, and whilst you're doing that, do leave a like and share it with your friends and share that sim racing love around. You can see a couple of the drivers have indeed shared it onto the page, Shopee Inside, as well as Calvin Ha has shared the stream, and hopefully will be coming loud and clear towards all the fans who tuned in to this race this evening. Nigel Chua right now, he's in 6th place for Outer House FCI Performance Team B, and they're looking to be very, very quick throughout the race there. A bit of a yellow livery for them this time around, going through Eau Rouge and up into Radion. Absolutely flying through the curves there. And it's a very stunning track, this. Legend in World Motorsports. Not only famous for the Grand Prix, it is also the site of a very popular WEC 1,000-kilometer race, as well as the Spa 24-hour event, which is traditionally been a touring car race, but in recent years have been taken over with a GT3 contingent, and a very spectacular race to take part in indeed. This track used to have a much longer configuration. Used to go straight on at the Camel Straight and go into a town called Burnville, then through a town called Master, where the famous Master King was, then went through the old Stavelot corner before coming back, resulting in a track length of about 14 kilometers long. But nowadays they've decided to abandon part of that for reasons of safety, and since the late 70s and early 80s they've been running on this special route through the other side of the hills here at Spa. 7 kilometers, the longest track in the Formula 1 calendar, and one of the longest international racetracks out there. Not a lot of tracks have a length longer than Spa-Francorchamps. Of course, Nürburgring is longer and still retains its old layout, the Nordschleife section. But certainly a very enjoyable track indeed. If you get the flow right, you can really push the cars through. And it looks like Nigel Chua here will be pushing the car quite hard going through the second part of Blanchemont. They'll have to hit the brakes just a little bit in order to carry some speed through there. These cars don't have that much downforce compared to a GT or a Formula 1 car. So you'll see them slow down quite a bit going through the long constant radius corners that we have here. Now the real trick for these guys, as we ride on board with Aaron Lim up Eau Rouge and Radion and onto the Camel Kink and the Camel Straight there, just a little bit sideways from Aaron. Well held to keep the car in a straight line and keep the car going at full throttle. But definitely for sure this is going to be a real tests of endurance. A lot of these drivers will be practicing right now, trying to get as much time in the car, trying to work out their fuel strategies as well as their tyre consumption in order to get the try to arrive at a pace that they can maintain throughout the course of a stint. Now, like I was saying, there are usually more cars out there on track, but this time each team gets one car and they'll have to change drivers throughout the race. 2.4 hours, aka 2 hours and 24 minutes if my maths do not betray me. And we've had a very short practice session this time around, but obviously we've had a lot of practice throughout the week for these guys, and it looks to be that a lot of the guys have really got this Spa circuit down to a fine art. Through Fanyas, very, very careful on the entry into the first part, and you've really got to use the right amount of curb there. Too much curb and you can unsettle the car, too little curb and you're not pushing hard enough. Through Campus and now into Stavolo, and this is an absolutely critical corner to try and get right. If you go too wide here, you'll have a time disallowed, you'll have a penalty, but if you get it absolutely right, you're going to have a much better run down through to Blanchimont here. But be very careful on the brakes here. You just have to brake a little bit to try and get the car around the corner there. Use all of that curb on the exit and then down to the chicane here. Where the infamous bus stop chicane used to be, they've changed the layout of the track now just to try and get it a little bit more safer going into the start-finish straight. Let's see what that time he is able to pull out here. And it looks like that might have been a outlap, so Team URT Blackpink still with a 2:33.6. Qualifying perhaps not going to be as critical as the usual sort of sprint races that we have here, albeit relatively long races at 45 minutes, they're not as long as this one. The critical thing is going to be trying to get themselves as far up the field as they could reasonably be expected to do, but mainly it's for practice to try and get as much seat time as they can. The critical thing at the end of practice here will be to try and get as much mileage as possible. Team URT Black has now got the fastest time at 2:31.645 for those guys, followed by Dante's Total Motorsports 2:32.1. That will be your front runners coming into the qualifying session. 15 minutes, single car qualifying, but obviously all the cars will be out at the same time. But each car will be afforded a completely clear track. Now, as we wait for the cars to begin rolling out of the pits, Freddie Young, one of the first drivers out in one of the URT cars, car number 3, building speed, going up into the Eau Rouge and Radion section. This section used to be a part of a highway going from the town of Spa off into Burnville, I do apologise. But obviously the cars used to go straight on here, but instead they take a right-hander at this braking point into Les Corbes. And at Les Combes, they've got to get the car all the way to the left to try and take Malwindi as fast as possible. And to a section they used to call Beau Rivage, they now refer to it as Brussels hairpin. And now through a section the locals call No Name, this corner, traditionally not having a name in Spa. So it's almost been given the pseudonym. Now into Prouhon, or Double Draw, or Double Right, I should say. Sorry, Double Apex, I do apologise. My screen just went black when I was looking at the map, so I do apologise, ladies and gentlemen. I do know it used to be called Prouhon, and this part is called Fanyas. Fanyas chicane used to be sometimes referred to by the fans as Pif Paf, down in Belgium, through Campus and into Stavolo. Very fast right hand, just like the version on the old track. Of course, from the old track, Stavolo used to be banked. Now coming up through the Paul Ferrer curve and into Blanchimont. Can be very aggressive on the turn in here to try and get the car pointed in the right direction before coming into the chicane here, the bus stop chicane. Got to be very, very accurate and very, very careful with the throttle here. Unfortunately, Freddie just going a little bit wide there. That should not worry him too much going across the line to start his qualifying lap, and we're beginning to get some of the guys starting their qualifying times there. We're now on board with Shame Aizan, who is very, very quick, diving into the hairpin there and on to the endurance grid for the run-up out of out of La Source and to Eau Rouge and Radion. Absolutely flat out up the hill, a little bit of a lift to try and settle the car. Of course, you don't have the downforce to go truly flat out through that section. And now on to the Camel Straight. Absolutely flat out for Samir Aizan. He's already in 6th gear. You can see the speeds climbing. Will he reach 235 kilometers an hour? That was the benchmarking testing. Yes, he does. Just clips 235. It takes that nice big entry into Lecom. Now down to Normandy. Use of the curbs here, absolutely critical, but you have to use the right amount of curbs here. They're old school curbs, so if you use too much, you can be thrown offline. Now through the Brussels hairpin, just all about trying to control the understeer in any sort of car there, and unfortunately Shami Aizan had to back out of that lap. Meanwhile, Kulvinder Singh is going on his first attempt. He'll be pushing very hard to get that Android King Todak machine up the field. Now again through Malbonby, running the car all the way up to the exit there. Now diving on the brakes for Brussels hairpin. Now you've got to be really smooth to try and get the car back for No Name. Again, using as much of the curb as possible. Really trying hard to get the car flowing across those curves, pushing the car as hard as possible. Now diving into Puhon, you get the car a little bit sideways on the entry there, as Kelvin did, before straightening the car up and trying to put all that power down. 375 brake horsepower in these Kia Optimas. They're not your standard Kias, that's for sure. Thanks to Nevsky Chin and Sean To for those likes. Do leave a comment down below and share it with your friends. Now coming out of Fanyas, diving into this corner here, which is called Campus nowadays, before diving into Stavilo. And this is the start of the flat out section for the Formula 1 guys, pushing as hard as possible to head down the field there. We have our first lap time. Ruben Wong sets a 232.021, very quick indeed. We'll see what Saiful Arifin has put up. It's a 230.856. That's an amazing lap time from Saiful Arifin, who's managed to bring that Motorsports machine right up to the front. We were saying that we could see a 231 lap time, but it looks like Saiful Arifin's managed to really break that mark. Nigel Chua, let's see what he's able to do. He was going fairly quickly through there. Unfortunately, he's dropped a little bit of time in that middle sector. He gets 232.38, but the on-house FCR Performance Team B car has got a 231.431, absolutely flying through there. Now the Hermanos Velotes vehicle of Kelvin T, who's now out there trying to give it all he has to try and get that car up into the top of the leaderboard. For those of you who have just joined us in the series, Kelvin T is one of our analysts that joins us at the end of the race, so it'll be absolutely interesting to see what he will say of this challenge and try and see if we can get him up into the commentary booth after his stint. Lloyd Lachlan was very quick on his few runs through the course. Let's see what he's able to do there. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like he's improved from his lap time, so he's going to go again and try and push the car as hard as possible. Meanwhile, Dante's Tolat Motorsports machine goes up into a 231.906. So that's 2, 3, 4 cars have gone into the 231s, and of course one car that's managed to scrape into the 230s. An absolute flying pace for all the drivers out there right now. 7 minutes have gone in this qualifying session. That's roughly halfway. And the real trick for most of these drivers is to try and get out there and really push as much as possible in order to try and get themselves up the leaderboard. There's not a lot of cars out on track in comparison to the usual races, but it's going to be very, very interesting to see who can actually really gain that much through not only pace, but also through the strategy and also through keeping the tires safe and keeping the fuel at a reasonable level, the fuel consumption. So it looks like Freddie Ang's going to go across the line. Let's see what he's capable of doing. It's a 2:31.007. So close to the Total Motorsports lead, just 2/10 between them. That's going to be absolutely fascinating to try and see how well these guys go through the first part of the session. Kelvin there using a very open line through the final part of the chicane and also start-finish straight. Let's see if that's able to sort of change anything for him. Unfortunately, he's still off the pace on that lap, so he's going to have to try again. Chami Aizan had to abort earlier on, but now he's going for it, going flat out through the first part. Blanchimont has to back off a little bit for the second part. In fact, hit the brakes just a little. But Chami Aizan was very quick throughout the week of practice here at Spa, and it's be very interesting to see what he's able to do in the Kia Optima. Rab Pro Drag machine will come across the line. Let's see what he's able to put up on the board. And it looks like that's a 2:31.233. Rab Pro Drag Esport goes third fastest. That's going to be absolutely fascinating as we see what can Tunku Ershad do through the line there. It's a 2:31.7 for Tunku Ershad, moving him up into 7th place. The top 7 have done 2:31 or better, so that's going to be very interesting indeed. Tunku Ershad has commented there, go URT. Absolutely. Hopefully we'll see you out there really battling with the guys. And also for those of you who have just joined us, do leave a comment down below in the comment section and ask the man himself any questions you would like to ask. We have quite a few of the drivers who often drop into the stream and leave some comments and sort of have a chat with the fans out there, so that's absolutely fantastic, and we'll hope that everything goes well, especially for the URT guys. And also to Tunku Ershad there, all the best to all teams as well. So let's hope that we'll get a nice hard battle, but also a nice clean race as well from all these drivers. Club Automobilista Hermanos Veloces goes 14th fastest. The Outhouse FCR team goes up to 10th place, and it looks like Farid has decided to abort any more laps. So almost 11 minutes gone, about 4 minutes 10 seconds to go in the qualifying session before we start the race. Now a little bit of a change in the format, as again we'll have to thank Tunku Ershad there for the 50 stars. Really appreciate it, and yeah, we can't say thanks enough for that donation. But also just a little bit of a notice to all of the fans out there, just before the start of the race we are going to play the national anthem, as it is the national day here in Malaysia, Merdeka Day, so do stay tuned for that. But right now Autohouse is in 3rd, Team URT Black is in 2nd, and Todak Motorsports is in 1st place. So Sean To, a lot of URT fans out there, have a good race URT, Blackpink, hashtag URT, hashtag Blackpink, and everyone as well. Happy Merdeka to you as well, Sean. We hope you will enjoy the racing that's yet to come. Now Afi Fadlan is absolutely on it right now, going up to the bus stop chicane. Of course nowadays it's just called the chicane, as it's lost its unique bus stop shape, as they've completely repaved this section, which is also part of I believe it was a Route 426, but I could be wrong about that as well. But yeah, this is the end of the fully private section of the track. Nazmi Mazli is now about to go on to what used to be the public road as well. That tarmac runoff on the left-hand side actually used to be part of the road that went down into La Source and the junctions there. But Nazmi is going to go absolutely as hard as he can into this corner. Again, just a little tap on the brakes to try and get the car turned in before firing it out into the chicane. Let's see what he's able to do. Meanwhile, we'll take a look there at the bottom. That's the cars that are about to finish their lap times. Kelvin T is unable to improve, but it looks like Nazmi Mazli might be able to. Let's see what he's able to pull out. Unfortunately, he's just a few hundredths off his best lap time. Lloyd Lachlan is coming around to try and start another lap. Meanwhile, Mohamed Khalif has gone at 2:37. He won't be able to improve. I mean, Faridian won't be able to improve, unfortunately. Let's see if Freddie Ang is able to improve on his previous best of a 2:30.856. Let's have a look and see. It's 2:31.8. I do apologise, 2:30 was the pole time. Ruben Wong is pushing very hard. He was quickest, in fact, in the first sector, so this could be very entertaining indeed. Let's see if he's able to do anything through the finish line. Unfortunately, that's 2:32.7 from Ruben Wong, and they're unable to improve on their lap times. 1 more minute to go. Let's see if there's anyone else out on track. Hello there. Joining me in the virtual studio right now is our director, Carol Alang.
Okay, so there are a total of 16 cars today. But I don't see Lloyd running yet. Oh, okay, here he goes. Let's go check him out.
Absolutely, Lloyd was the last man out on track. That was actually, I do apologise, there's 5 cars left out on track. Maybe a 6th one as well. Amir Faridian's just gone quickest in the first sector. Meanwhile, Lloyd Lachlan, he wasn't as quick through the first sector, but he is better than his personal best through the second sector. So this will be a very interesting little battle to see if these two drivers can improve their positions. So for reference, unfortunately,
time out.
unfortunately, they were nowhere near the finish line there at that point, and it looks like they're going to go into the race.
Okay, that was just a preview of the system. Okay, we'll do that. That was just a rehearsal. Okay, stay tuned for standing up. Let me get the screen clutter out of the way.
Right, we're about to head off on our run into the start of the race. It's going to be a rolling start. But here is your grid. Ilham Halabi will start the car for Todat Motorsports. They are in pole position, followed by Dominic Ang for Team URT Black in second position. In the second row of the grid, Nigel Chua is with Outhouse FCR Performance in third place, followed by Shami Aizan in the 404 RAB Pro Drag Esports car. They're in fourth place. Todat Motorsports Revolution in fifth, followed by Aaron Lim and Team URT. And now, Malaysian Anthem.
Green.
and that was the Malaysian anthem. And while that played, there was a big accident at the start there with Outhouse FCR and Rad Pro Track unfortunately being sent off. That you really don't want to see that at the start of an endurance race, but that's very unfortunate indeed. Meanwhile, we have Kelvin T in the studio. Hi, Kelvin.
Hi. How's it going?
Absolutely fantastic. We had quite the start to the race there. There was a bit of an accident up in the infield section, but it looks like the cars are beginning to get into a bit of a rhythm there. Of course, the usual side-by-side racing down the Keppel Straight there. So how did qualifying go for you?
Not so well. I mean, trying to do some good laps, but I think we did our lap on the 4th lap, so the tires obviously has worn down since then, these being front-wheel drive cars. So I would say it's quite intense lah. But I think I'm quite happy to see the team up at P13 right now, having started from the end. That's quite okay for us.
Absolutely, and of course, was helped a little bit by that incident at the start, which was a little bit unfortunate, where a couple of cars got into. They tried to go 5 wide down the main straight, and looks like it didn't quite work out for them.
Oh, yes. I mean, after all, it is lap 1, right? I mean, there's the wise saying that, nothing is won at the first turn, at the first lap. But I think as racers, it's quite hard to rein in that, that spirit,
Absolutely. You do tend to, once the visor goes down and the car goes into gear, sometimes the old saying used to be, back in my clubbing days, is that you engage first gear and disengage brain for the start. But
absolutely, I completely agree, right? I mean, and in today's day, right? I mean, literally, you do put on a helmet, right? Because I mean, some of us, we race in VR, so literally, you are actually putting on a helmet, and then off you go.
Absolutely. So now up at the front of the field, we have the Toyota Motorsports cars in first position, followed by the Team URT Black and the Team URT Black Pink cars in second and third. And it looks like the Team URT Pink car is battling with the sister car of Toyota Motorsports. That's the Toyota Motorsports Revolution car up ahead there. It looks like it's going to be shaping up to be a nice little battle through this first stint.
Yeah, I think strategy will absolutely be at play here for this long race, 2 hours and 24 minutes. I can't wait to see, how many teams adopt the lift and, coast strategy down the straight, or how many just decide to go hell for leather and, just attack people, attack. I think at the moment for us, we are running P13, my club, my personally, our team, and I think we should be looking at fuel saving and, using the slipstream that the others are punching for us right now. As you can see here, Javier, my teammate on screen, probably will just be very happy sitting behind. But I think some of the teams, especially the Todak ones in front, are extremely fast and may want to just accelerate. Like we're seeing Ilham Halabi on screen right now, they may just want to accelerate and get out of the slipstream so that the cars behind don't enjoy that slipstream, that tow that the cars generate down the straight, because this tow that we have is quite significant at this car, despite this car not having like huge aero, but driving a big Kia down the straight and having this spoilers on, it definitely saps the speed. With following someone behind, you do save fuel and you do save some performance there on the tires as well. So I think it's a viable strategy. So I think looking forward to see how this actually falls out. So now we're looking at the car number 4 of Iman Danish. Right in front of him, the car of Team URT Black Pink. What an interesting battle here, going into the left and right turns here. This part, it's quite tricky, and it's these front wheel drive cars, they easily understeer, but you just need to use the right technique to brake and then to correctly switch the car over by using left foot braking. As you can see here, the cars in front just lift. But another technique is to use some left foot braking to balance the car through the turns and then make them turn, essentially, right? I mean, at our team, we do call these cars boats. They're quite big, they're quite powerful, and they quite like going in a straight line without turning. So we do affectionately call them boats. So as you can see them, they are rushing in, going into the turns, turning quite tight, quite firm. And looking at Iman Danish, I would say that he's probably enjoying the pace advantage here as he looks to overtake the car in front of him.
Absolutely, and a lot of the teams, of course, will be trying to go for this sort of offset strategy, which seems to be quite popular in modern enduro racing right now. Some of the guys up the front will try and push the cars as hard as possible through the first stint, or set up for a very hard push at the last stint of the race. So it's going to be very interesting to see if we have any early pitters or late pitters as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think in the previous round, right, the AIMC round 4, we can clearly see that there are different strategies at play, with some opting to have the undercut, pitting earlier, trying to leapfrog the cars in front. And obviously the race winner back then, Jazrin Jali, using the overcut actually to run extra one lap and then actually pit and come out in the lead despite actually running in P6 at the moment. He actually leapfrogged 5 cars and went to the lead with an overcut strategy. So I can't wait to see what happens here. But I mean, looking at the mid-pack, it's just a very close battle of train of cars here. I mean, the Formula One community likes to use the word DRS train for cars. They are so close together. Essentially, they are all using the DRS. I think we are also seeing a slipstream train here behind the car of the Todak Motorsports Revolution that just passed the P4 of Team URT Blackpink. And they are all currently together except the front 3, which are in a league of their own right in front. Breaking a gap of about 2 seconds ahead already. So the top 3 are indeed extremely fast compared to the rest. But let's see how this race pans out.
Absolutely. It looks like the top 2 cars, the top Todak Motorsports car and the top Team URT car, have made a bit of a break for it with 2-second gap. But look at the timing screens on the left-hand side of the screen, ladies and gentlemen. You see our little billboard from position 4 all the way down to position 12. It's all, or position 13 even, with Javier getting up into that sort of 1-second gap. Everybody is within a second of the car in front, so that's going to be very entertaining indeed. Ilham Labi still leads the race. Dominic Ang in second place, perhaps holding a bit of a watching brief, but it looks like Iman Danish to me. Looks like he's trying to push that car as hard as possible. Perhaps a little bit of a change in strategy to try and get that car as far away from the chasing pack before perhaps an early pit.
Yeah, I think this is a viable strategy. I think anyhow the cars will run probably 8 or 9 laps on our current fuel settings, and probably 8 or 9 laps is exactly where the tires will fall off a cliff and you just cannot turn them anymore. So probably is a good idea to push now to create the gap, but will it come back to bite him later in the race? We shall see in just maybe 2 or 3 laps. I mean, very interesting to see, because as per what Matt you had mentioned, it's clear that Iman Danish is actually pushing very hard to try to break away from the pack behind him as he builds a gap of 1.2, 1.3 seconds to the cars behind him. But very interestingly, the Team URT cars behind, they are actually following in almost like synchronized swimming, right? They're actually following each other together closely on the straight, as you see the Dante Torak Motorsport car trying to overtake. Will that car be there to wreck their strategy of their tow? We shall see in a short while. But it's very interesting to see the URT cars going in tandem together. I would suspect running a similar pace to keep their lap times there, and also create a roadblock of 2 cars wide, so that they can maintain some sort of advantage there. So let's see this strategy out at play.
Absolutely. Not only are they going to improve their overall pace because they're not battling with each other, they're actually working together and using the slipstream effect as much as possible. We've seen how devastatingly effective that is with the Outhouse FCR team, and even with the Todak Motorsports guys trying that in effect in the previous round here. So perhaps Aaron Lim and his teammate is going to try and use that tactic. And of course, around a track like this, you only really need 2 cars in order to make it difficult for the car behind to get past both drivers. So for the Dante's Todak Motorsports team, they're going to really have to think very hard about how to get past this URT train up ahead.
Yep, yes indeed. So how is it like? You know, how was the race start, Matt, just now?
Absolutely fantastic. We had a fantastic run up into turn 1, with the Todak Motorsports guys getting a fantastic jump off the line. Unfortunately, a couple of the cars, I believe the Android King car and one of the Outer House and one of the Grab Pro Track cars, got a bit tangled up in the run down to the hairpin through La Source. So unfortunately, they aren't out of the race, but they did have to spin their cars round and
Ooh.
retake again. Ooh.
Sorry to interrupt you there. Yes, as the URT cars actually touch each other. There now we were just mentioning about them using each other as a, sort of like a strategic move on each other. But it seems there are actually some accidental contact. I think which is probably inevitable, having them run so close to the cars behind them as well. So yeah, I mean, could be an oversight, could be a little bit of an issue, or maybe just outright a higher performance from one driver compared to the other, and actually they are attacking each other now as they go into Eau Rouge. As we can see right now on the screen, let's see which car comes out of ahead out of Eau Rouge and into Radion, and now onto the Camel Straight.
Absolutely, this looks like it's going to be a very spicy battle. Perhaps the URT team have tried to follow the team strategy for just about a grand total of about 11 minutes before they decided to go racing. These are real-life racing drivers in the URT team, and when you put racing drivers in a racing car, they would want to try and race. But unfortunately, that might have opened up a little chink in the armor, because Tipu Ershad has managed to go past the Team URT pink car and go into 5th place. So was that a bit of an oversight? He goes again. He makes an overtaking move into Brussels hairpin, and now he's up into 4th position. So that is a fantastic move, yeah.
What a great move indeed, man. Wow, what a fantastic moves. I have goosebumps from these moves indeed. I mean, it really reminds me of what Alex Albon did last year at the Belgian GP, right? Similarly on a Formula... Oh, and there's contact! There's contact between... probably that is the car of Tengku Janle. Is that right?
I believe that might have been that, yeah.
There's contact between the yellow car and a URT car, and now the URT car is running at a 3-position deficit right now behind the Android King car. Something has just happened right there. Tengku Janle, yes, indeed, the car of Tengku Jan has indeed been hit and careered into the barriers. Fortunately, not touching any cars, including the 778 car and the Android King car, rejoining the race safely at the turn. So very good racing from all indeed, very good awareness from all to make sure that there's actually no further contact, no worse crashes that happen out of that incident. Very well done.
Absolutely, and perhaps that is just a view of Tengku Janle's experience, that he's managed to keep all of that under control. He's a very lucky man to still be in the race at that point. They've now got to really understand that this is a long enduro. Perhaps some of these drivers, like we said, once you get that helmet on, you really want to push the cars as hard as possible. So it's going to take real sort of wisdom and real tactical nous to try and drive the cars at a conservative pace, or at least race conservatively. Afiq Fadlan now in the FR 778 Autosport car, doing quite well for themselves, up in 7th position.
Yeah, I mean the FR 778 guys usually race very clean, and I can see, I mean, as we can see just now, the Afiq Fadlan tried to make a move down into the chicane, but ultimately backed off safely, I might add. There was no dive bomb, everything was done very safely. So the 778 guys are usually known for very well clean racing, and as we can see on the screen, that is indeed the case. But unfortunately, he has Kelvinder right up his bottom, and they have the slipstream going down this main straight. Let's see what happens, as clearly the 778 car does no longer enjoy a slipstream, but the Android King car behind him, the white and the green car, will enjoy a slipstream. Let's see if the move happens down the straight here. As we go into the turning point right now, the brakes go on, they turn in, both of them decide to not to make any move, no defensive move, no attacking move, and both of them go into the next phase, into the midsection, section 2 of the racetrack.
Absolutely, now coming down into Brussels chicane, a very tricky place to overtake, but you can get it done through here. A little bit off camber, or at least it feels like it when you're driving around the track. Perhaps it's just the understeer talking, but it looks like Afiq Fadlan might be just a little bit quicker on some parts of the track, but Kelvinder is very, very brave and very, very quick through Spa's notorious high-speed sections. And perhaps some of that experience he gained doing the 24 hours of Spa is starting to come back into play here.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Kelvinder, what a racer with extreme good experience, and of course good racecraft, and of course one of the few guys who actually won a few races last season in the MX-5 Cup car. Very experienced and very fast racer indeed. Quality guy here all around, and he does stream as well, so under KSS Gaming, so very cool guy. Unfortunately, he, perhaps like myself, doesn't really take too well to these front wheel drive cars, and he's running an Impact now in P8. I think with his experience, it would be quite difficult to, because I think it's important for us to just say it out that these cars do handle very differently compared to the rear-wheel drive race cars that we are used to, including the MX-5 as well. And some of them do race GT3, endurance, and some other categories, including skip barber as well. So these cars handle very differently. And I think all drivers will have some form of expertise over one another when it comes to certain types of cars. And as we can see here, Iman Danish is clearly closing up to the bottom of Dominic Ang, and as he goes into turn 1 into the La Source hairpin.
And it looks like Dom has gone a little bit wide there. That's going to be very tricky for him to try and recover. Perhaps he might have gone a little bit wide just to try and get the exit out of the bend, but it does mean that Iman Danish will be in the slipstream zone. These cars don't need DRS, there's no dash button, but definitely for sure these cars do enjoy a bit of slipstream. I suppose it's perhaps because the cars are so big, they have a lot of frontal area, as they say, and they do punch quite a big hole through the air, and those rear wings do kick quite a lot of air up. So even though it is really a very aerodynamic car, they do have a big aerodynamic effect, if you will. Typical Irshad there, starting to get a little bit racy. Could this be a spoiler on the Revolution guys trying to move their way up into that podium position? We might have a three-way fight for third place on our hands here.
Yeah, I think keep your eyes peeled on this battle, as clearly just now I thought Danish would go right behind into Dominic's back to take the slipstream, but he didn't do so. And I think we saw that clearly a little while later, because Teguh Irshad was there taking up that particular space. So very good move on Danish's behalf to not move into the space of another car and continuing to attack into the mid section of section 2 in the circuit as well. So very good awareness there, but this battle is definitely going to be very close. As you can see clearly that Teguh Irshad enjoys the pace advantage that he had probably from the saving of tires earlier as Danish pushed earlier in the race. And as we approach lap 7, we probably will see the first runners, the ones who push very hard, pitting sometime around lap 8 or lap 9. Let's see how far they can run, how much fuel they have on board, and of course the condition of their tires.
Absolutely, and by my calculations, if some of the drivers got a short stop at the first stint, we should be coming up to within a lap or two of the pit lane window. Iman Danish getting a little bit racy, Teguh Irshad getting very racy going through the first section of Cauchemont, and Iman's on the grass there, just about hangs on to the car there through the corner. Very, very good car control from Iman Danish to overreact on that situation, but that gives Teguh Irshad a bit of a whiff at that position going through the bus stop chicane there, and it looks like Iman Danish just had to struggle a little bit to try and get the car still ahead and try and defend that position. But it looks like this battle is going to rage on, and there's a couple of cars there that are getting closer and closer to the back. Dante Stoddart Motorsports, Outhouse FCR, and Team URT Blackpink. So this might be a very entertaining battle shaping up, and if the Monday race was anything to go by, our little post-race show on Tuesday as well, we can have some absolutely spectacular racing around here. And now we see the first of the pits. Stoddart Motorsports Asia, Club Automobilista Hermanos Veloces, and AFA 778 are in the pits.
Yes, I think this is indeed, as predicted, lap 8 is the pit window opening, and I think some of them opted to pit because they probably have some tire issues, or they have actually run out of the slipstream. As we can refocus our battle again, on our eyes on the battle in the midfield, the position 3s to position 6 now actually running all within 1 second of each other. Very interesting race going into the midfield as Dominic Ng loses 1 position and is currently under attack by Iman Danish into the midsection right now.
Absolutely. They are trying as hard as possible. It's amazing how quick Teguh Irshad is around this track. Perhaps we found the car and track combination for the man with the mustache, Teguh Irshad, in that Dante's Stoddart Motorsport machine. He is driving the race of his life, and now Iman Danish goes on the inside of Puhon. A very risky maneuver, but he's managed to make it work. Iman Danish going a little bit wide around there, and it looks like he's just about managed to get that to work. Dominic Ang has gone down into 4th place, and now under a lot of pressure from Amir Farid Yan in the Outhouse FCR performance car. It looks like, to me, it looks like the outer house car is just a little bit better on the brakes and through the tighter sections, but Dominic Ang has quite a lot of bravery going through the quick corners. He is not afraid to keep that pedal to the metal.
Yep, but looking at how Dominic is actually slipping behind and his lap times, I would think that perhaps he's actually running on fumes and is trying to eke out one more lap. And my prediction down this, as we go into the final section of the lap, going towards the bus stop chicane, is that I feel at this lap Dominic Ang should be pitting and switching to the next driver, perhaps successfully eking out another lap under his current condition. As we see race leader Ilham Halabi coming into the pit at the end of lap 8 towards lap 9.
Absolutely. And it looks like Dante's Toyota Motorsports has also...
There's a small hit.
All the Toyota Motorsports cars are coming in, and it looks like the entirety of the field have responded to the leaders coming into the pits there. And Dominic Ang tries to eke out one more lap. Could this be an advantage?
Wow, what an interesting strategy. I mean, going with his speed currently, 241 laps, I would assume that he's actually already running on fumes, but it seems like he's trying the overcut and going one lap extra, which personally in our team, we have calculated 243s is probably the lap time to hit in order to get that performance and also the time advantage that we have, because each pit stop with full tire change and full fuel will probably cost around 55 seconds. And if you can actually make the cars last around 240 laps and go more than the others, you actually gain an advantage here. So very interesting strategy from Team URT Black, and also of course the Nigel Choi in the car of Auto's FCR Performance Team B now running in second position.
Absolutely, and this goes back to what I was saying about a lot of teams trying a different strategy. And it could be a very wise maneuver, because not only do you avoid the pit melee, but when you get out onto the track, you're not going to have a lot of traffic up ahead. Having said that, Ilham Hlami, being the leader, he comes out with fresh air ahead of him, so perhaps he might be able to gain some positions through the end of this cycle of pit stops here. Tinku Irshad comes out in 6th place, and it looks like all the cars are beginning to stream out of the pits there. Now, of course, it could be a wise decision to try and copy the leader and stay on the leader's sort of strategy, because it seems to be working out for the leaders, but it could also be a very good move if you try and offset your strategy, even by one lap. Could give just a little bit of advantage come the end of the race.
Yeah, I think if you have the speed advantage clearly and you don't want to take unnecessary risks trying to overtake on the track, which can be a bit tough seeing that we have a train of cars together, the wisest strategy would be to drag it down and actually pit later and actually filter out into the race, having the race position without actually having to overtake on track. That seems to be the better strategy. But Matt, just wanted to find out your thoughts, because obviously Rep Pro Drag Esport currently running in P3. They stopped later than Torak Motorsports, but they came out ahead. Is that a short stop from Shami Aizan and his teammates?
I believe that might be the case. They might be going for a bit of a weird sort of strategy, perhaps going for a short stint early on in the race, perhaps not the first stint, but maybe the second or third stint, making that artificially just a little bit shorter in order to get and leapfrog ahead of a few cars. And I think their main aim right now is to try and get out in front of as many cars as possible, just to make sure that they are out in fresh air. They may have also...
Red Pro Drag had an issue in turn 1 and lap 1, and he had to pit, and maybe he topped out a bit more fuel there. That means he could run. Yeah, that shows his pit time. His pit stop already done one time already.
Yeah,
that may be the case. Yeah.
I see. No wonder that we're looking at Shami Aizan still running at very good lap times, 2:34, very rapid lap times indeed, having already done one pit stop, and is currently now into the lead of the race in lap 10.
Absolutely, the Team URT Black guys and the Auto House FCR Performance Team B of Nigel Chua, that was Dominic Ang and Nigel Chua into the pits. Could they have turned the disaster of that first corner incident into a bit of a success in terms of strategy? Because they're going very quick, a lot deeper into the race with quite a good sort of lap time, quite a good pace, and perhaps they're going to push that car just as long as possible, as much as possible, and try and stay in the lead for as long as they can before they go into the pits. this could work out at the end of the race to be a bit of a blessing in disguise.
Yep, as we now look at the P4 car of Tengku Irsyad, now very close to the 778 AFA Autosport team, driven by Kelvin Ha at the moment, going down the straight and having made the move already. Yes, as it is on the screen, they have already made the move and now going into the midsection of the circuit. So very well done, clean move by Tengku Irsyad on Kelvin Ha.
That's exactly the kind of overtaking maneuver you need in an endurance race. You don't want to be spending too much time battling with another car, because even though you could get that slipstream in the race, but if you're going into and out of the car's slipstream as you do throughout the corners, you could find yourself wearing the tires out a little bit more and perhaps overworking the car in general. So to have the pace advantage to be able to overtake someone and stay in the higher position would be a benefit for the Dante Solar Motorsports team.
Yeah, yes indeed. As we now look at the P6 car of Iman Danish, very close to Amir Faridyan in front of him. Actually, they went into the pits in reverse order with actually Danish in front and Amir Faridyan in the back. So I wonder what happened there. But definitely these four cars, they were the same before they actually pitted, and now after the pit window has closed, they have all made their stops. They now emerge also within 1 second of each other. So what an interesting battle here in the midfield between these guys.
Absolutely, and it looks like Iman Danish is also double stinting in the car as well. You can save a little bit of time by not changing drivers around this track, and that is sort of what they try to do in pro endurance racing in real life as well. They try and keep the driver in the car for as long as possible, because inevitably the driver change nowadays is the longest part of the pit stop, as you're not allowed to refuel and change drivers at the same time. So perhaps that might be a tactical thing for Iman Danish, but it looks like they got outfoxed a little bit by Outhouse FCR, who may have just put a little bit less fuel in the car than what the first stint would have perhaps suggested. Perhaps they had their eye out on the Toyota Motorsports car whilst they're refueling.
Yep. But keep an eye on Iman Danish, as I think that at the moment he does enjoy a pace advantage over the cars in front of him. I would expect that Danish, with his good driving, to be attacking the cars in front, as Amir Faridyan will enjoy the slipstream from Kelvin Ha's car this lap and see whether he clears the car of 778 before or after Redmond. And as we look at the screen, he will enjoy the slipstream for a bit, but then pulls out and will now no longer have the slipstream. So this advantage to Danish going down the straight, as Danish would have two cars effectively to choose from to slipstream, as Amir Faridyan goes on the defensive line on the left. Danish sticking very closely behind him, mindful of the car of 778 with them together as well, and both of them choose to run a different line into the right and left turn, and now back onto the same battle again with less than a second between them. What an interesting battle for P4 and P5.
Absolutely, and they're driving like they're endurance veterans right now, which some of them are, to be fair. Well, perhaps not veterans, but they have had a little bit of experience in long distance racing. They're not pushing the cars too hard, they're not trying to force the issue, they're not trying to go door to door, especially going into Lecombe, which is very, very difficult to try and get right if you're racing side by side. It looks like both Kelvin Ha and Iman Danish had a nice clean change of position going into there, which means that not only does both cars continue to race and continue to race at a good pace, but they don't lose any time in relation to the previous laps.
Yes indeed. As we look at the 13th car of Tengku Janle, following the P12 of Jazru Junos in front of him, Android King, and the URT Pink cars looking up to make a move, and they do touch a little bit, slight minor contact, maybe no contact, maybe just a close whiff of the paint of each other's car. Admiring their own liveries and paintwork.
Absolutely. Now they're going to be able to go back to their teams and perhaps give some notes as to improving each other's paintwork.
Yes, I can see. Oh yes, your paintwork looks good from the left.
Yeah. So Shami Aizan goes into the pits now. He goes in at lap 12, so that could be quite a big offset in comparison to the usual strategy around here. Like I said, it could be a good thing, it could be a bad thing, because right now, as it stands, he might end up right at the tail end of the field and having to deal with traffic.
As we can see, look at the lap times of Amir Faryan clocking 2:33 laps, which is quite similar to qualifying times. I would think that actually what you were saying earlier, Matt, is probably correct. They were probably out for a splash and dash and a quick middle stint before they have a driver swap around. And as you can see, Amir Faryan pushing very hard on the car, hitting 2:33 lap times consistently. Very interesting to see how long they can run on this car. And the full stint of each car would be around 7 or 8 laps, and some say 9, as we can see the two cars of Autohaus SCR Performance Team B of Nigel Chua just now, and also the Team URT car of Dominic Ang running 9 laps each. So let's see how long Amir Faryan can run in these speeds before he eventually has to pit.
Absolutely, and this is going to really pique the interest of all the other teams as well. I'm sure they'll be keeping an eye out on this man, Amir Faryan, because if he can get up to just 7 laps or perhaps even 8, that would be absolutely amazing pace for an 8-lap stint. I suspect that they might be going for a 7 or even a 6-lap stint, depending on how hard they push and for how long. But I suspect also that Amir Faryan will go into fuel-saving mode in the next few laps.
Yes, can't wait to see. So keep your eyes on this battle, and as we see who actually ends up coming out the rest and coming out faster. Overall, someone driving with the capability of driving so fast as Amir Faryan, you definitely can make these short stints work, like how Michael Schumacher did 20 qualifying laps in a race, not here, but he did that indeed, I believe in Hungaroring. Is that correct, Matt?
Yeah, I believe so. He managed to break the lap record, something ridiculous, like 6 or 7 times in that stint, which was amazing to watch.
Yeah, fantastic indeed. Yeah, that's like insane. But I believe someone as experienced as Amir Faryan probably could pull it through. But having said that, the pit stop time for a full tank would be around 55 seconds, and if you actually do fill up less than full, you would run it a little bit less than 55 seconds. So what he needs to do is to establish a clear difference, a clear speed advantage over the laps that he does, to cover that he's going to be running a shorter stint and therefore having to pit more than the usual. I think this strategy could be viable, and it's quite early in the race. It's 30 minutes in a 2 hours 24 race. So let's see what can we do in this to see which strategy comes out in play, right? Because as we can see, the P1 car of Torab Motorsports, driven by actually Ilham Halabi at the start, they actually they pulled out the maximum that they can, a full solid 8-lap push, and then they pitted. And the car of Dominic Ang, which was running P2 after the initial melee, they actually run 1 lap extra and then they pitted later. So let's see ultimately which strategy works well for these guys. Very interesting race indeed.
Absolutely, and it'd be interesting as well for the Torab Motorsports Revolution guys, who are still keeping relatively close to the flying yellow Kia right now. Autohaus FCR taking perhaps a slightly different livery to usual. And they did quite well in the Merdeka race. Unfortunately, there was a little bit of an incident, as I recall, with one of their sagas, unfortunately, having a bit of an off by turns 7 and 8. But perhaps, going back to the race here, perhaps they know that Amir Faryan is very quick around Spa especially. Maybe they're using him to try and build up a bit of a gap for the next driver that has to get into the car. And that could be an interesting thing in terms of strategy, because the Autohaus team have drivers that you could say are not as competitive in a sprint setting, but they can be very good at doing long fuel-saving runs. One of the drivers I can think of right now is, in the case of Torab Motorsports, they have Ilham Labi and Saiful Arifin, two of the most experienced drivers in iRacing in that team, but they also have Michael Hafiz, who's a relative newcomer, but he's used to enduro racing. He has done a few 1,000-kilometer races as well, so perhaps they're going to put, in terms of Torab Motorsports, they're going to push as hard as possible with their 2 quick drivers and get Michael in to try and fuel save and look after the car. Now we see Kelvin Singh battling with Muhammad Mohaimin, who replaces Lloyd Lachlan in the Torab Motorsports Asia machine, pushing very hard indeed.
Yep, as they go into the bus stop chicane, let's take a look at this as we gauge each other's braking points. They do it well, perfectly. Kelvinder being very experienced, not to... oh, actually, there's a car of Tengku Janley cutting in and passing through.
You gotta trust Tengku Janley to get those surgical, opportunistic overtaking maneuvers. I think he's right up there with guys like Alex Young and Frankie Cheng for that sort of cheek of it.
Yeah, very good. Very, very good. I mean, as expected, very, very good racecraft from the Prince of Drift himself. So, Matt, I'm going to have to excuse myself as I get ready to get into the car. So I will see you later.
Absolutely, and thanks for joining us. Do come back once you get out.
Yep, thanks for having me. I'll see you in a while.
Thank you very much. So that was Kelvin T, driver for the Hermanos Veloces team, Club Automobilista Hermanos Veloces. He's about to get into the car and experience this race first hand. It's been nice to hear a current driver share his thoughts on the series. Right now, Nazmi Mazli is battling with the Team URT drivers who are definitely engaged in some fierce battles up and down the leaderboard right now. And now, as Kelvin earlier on was talking about, a big part of this race is going to be the strategies, and now we see a lot of drivers who are on different strategies. It'll be very interesting to see what they do. Two drivers on different strategies will be the Muhaimin, and as well as early on we saw Dominic Ang, but now Muhaimin looks like he's starting to catch up with Tengku Jan up ahead. Will he be a little bit salty from that rather opportunistic overtaking maneuver that Tengku Jan managed to pull off? Now the quicker driver of Calvin Ha has started to pull away. Will Muhaimin be able to close that gap? Looks like through this section they're pretty much equal. Let's see how they do through coming out of Stavelo and on to the Bolshevik section of the track. Looks like they're closing up. We're getting closer and closer together. Gurvinder Singh also might be a factor in this battle coming into the bus stop chicane. Known as the chicane nowadays, but as locals like to call it, they still recognize it as a bus stop. There was a literal bus stop at that point back when it was a public road, hence the name. Now it looks like Muhaimin. So, yeah. So now we're going to carry on with these guys. Looks like 778 Autosport has decided to come in to the pits. They were trying to go for a very quick second stint, and Calvin Ha really doing quite well for themselves to try and push them a little bit higher up. But this battle is still going on. Iman Danish is still pushing very hard indeed, and it looks like he's able to overtake Amir Farid. I believe that was Amir Faridyan that he's overtaken. Indeed, it has been Amir Faridyan. Perhaps Amir has pushed that car to the absolute limit, and now he's beginning to run out of fuel. Will he be able to drag that car on fumes down the hill and into the pits? Iman Danish has been released from trying to follow Amir Faridyan. He's going to try and push as hard as possible, and there's a bit of a mistake there from one of the drivers. Muhammad Muhaimin ends up turning around the Team URT pink car. That is quite a dramatic little incident there going into Stavelo. Let's have a quick look at that. Tengku Janley in the gravel trap. Let's have a look down the Camel Straight, and it looks like Muhaimin tried to go around the outside. Tengku Janley in the inside there. They go hard on the brakes, and unfortunately 2 into 1 just do not go, and Tengku Janley came off a little bit worse from that. So Muhaimin, yeah, that looks to be very, very unfortunate indeed. But yeah, we probably won't hear the end of that from Muhammad Muhaimin. But meanwhile, he's still got Kelvinder Singh right behind in 9th position. So he's still in a little bit of trouble in terms of quicker cars right behind him. And Kelvinder will be pushing the car very hard indeed to try and catch up to the Toyota Motorsports Asia machine. Diving into the campus turn and through Stavelo. Gotta get the car really close to the curb, if not on it, in order to try and get a good run through there. The Android King cars running 9th and 10th. I would absolutely be sure that they would want to be running 8th or 9th coming into the pit stops here. Lap 16, that is about the time we'd expect some of these drivers to start pitting for the second round of pit stops here. It looks like Nazmi Masli will go for another lap. Perhaps quite a few of the drivers have started to get the hang of fuel saving in these Kia Optimas. Very thirsty cars for what they are. They're 4-cylinder turbocharged engines, which you'd think would be quite good. Maharimin goes into the pits there, down in 10th position. He lets a few of the cars go, obviously, on the main straight. Dominic Ang still in 6th. He's got his teammate up there in 5th, Aaron Lim. They're looking like they're going very well indeed, up near the top of the leaderboard. Meanwhile, Surin Selvaraju, one of our newcomers, the rookie that impressed us quite a bit in the previous round, he is definitely pushing that car as hard as it'll go, chasing down Faiz up ahead. So let's see what he can do with the car up ahead here. Faiz Aslan pushing that car as hard as it will go, but it looks like Surin Selvaraju might just be gaining a little bit under brakes and a little bit through this first sector. Perhaps Surin's managed to find the trick as to how to get these Kias going very quickly around these tight corners. Meanwhile, Dominic Ang is still in lockstep with Aaron Lim up in 5th and 6th position. Let's see if any of these guys will go into the pits. So far, car 16 has been into the pits, but no one else has decided to go in as of yet. But it'll be very interesting to see if these cars head in. Amir Farid Young will be the man to try and see. Man who's just ahead of this group of vehicles. He has slowed quite a bit there. He's now doing a 2:38. That's still very, very fast in terms of lap pace, but he's now starting to fuel save quite a bit there. He was doing 2:33s for the majority of his stint. He's still keeping that pace up quite a bit. But it looks like, from a tactics point of view, he did decide to let the Toyota Motorsports Revolution car go past. Perhaps the car is now on fumes. Let's see if he decides to go for another lap. Toyota Motorsports has gone into the pits. So the leaders are back into the pits as well, and Dante's Toyota Motorsports responds. They go into the pits, as well as the Revolution car and the Outer House FCR car. So your top 4 have gone into the pits there. And it looks like the Team URT guys are in the pits. The Blackpink car has gone into the pits, but the Team Black car has stayed ahead. So this is very interesting. They've decided to split the cars in terms of strategy. They're going to let Dominic Ang go for another 1 or 2 laps, whilst they bring in Aaron Lim for a tyre change and a fuel stop. So let's see if Dominic can make, yet again, this 1 extra lap work. So we're going to see these guys come out of the pit lanes fairly shortly, but Team URT Black, they might be onto a bit of a winner here because they now have an absolutely clear lap. So Dominic has a chance to try and nail his apexes and do a very, very quick in lap should he need to come in. Nigel Chua has gone back out in the Performance Team B car, and it looks like he will be out in 2nd place, pushing as hard as he can. No, he hasn't gone out yet. He is another driver that is shadowing the Team URT Black in terms of strategy. So it looks like the Dante's Toyota Motorsports car has managed to come out of the pits first in that group of cars there. So they've managed to overtake the main rivals out on track, the Toyota Motorsports Revolution car, and they also managed to block the Outer House FCR team from the pit lane. Team URT Blackpink also leave the pits, and we'll see how the rest of the teams come out there. Right now, our top 10, Team URT Black and Outer House FCR Performance Team B, yet to make a pit stop. Rad Prodrac is the first of the cars who have made a pit stop. They will probably take over the lead from Toyota Motorsports. Dante Toyota Motorsports in 5th, followed by FCR Performance Team A, Toyota Motorsports Revolution, Team URT Black, AFA 778 Motorsports in 9th, and Padawan SRCP in 10th. And it looks like Afik Fadlan side by side with Han going down into the braking zone here. Chok Fong Pang just Afiq Fadlan just managing to make those brake pads stop the car in an impossibly short distance going into that series of corners there, and that has let him get past Team URT Blackpink car of Chok Fong Pang. Absolutely stunning maneuver there, and a lot of confidence in the brakes for Afiq Fadlan to make that move work, but he's not quite out of the clear yet because Chok Fong Pang is looking very racy behind him and is looking like he's pushing very hard indeed. So this is a battle that'll go on for quite a while yet. So as we see the leader coming to the pits, that's Dominic Ang. This has definitely proven to perhaps all the other team managers, they've now taken notice that that is the Team URT strategy right now. They've split the cars, one car going long and one car going short. So this is going to be very interesting indeed. But it looks like Nigel Chua has managed to extend yet another lap out of that car. How is that car not running on fumes at the moment? This is going to be very interesting indeed, especially if he can make that lap work. But as the last of the cars go into the pits right now, and we suspect the Outer House FCR will go into the pits at the end of this lap. But for now, we're going to have a quick word from our sponsors and a quick break. We will see you all in a few minutes' time. But for now, do enjoy the race and have fun out there. So before we go, just like to thank our sponsors, Works Engineering, Lucas Oil, Precision Sim Racing, Android King, and our supporters, the Motorsports Association of Malaysia. But we will be back in a few minutes.
Hi, I'm Matt from Interformula, and welcome to our Research and Development Centre. We do all forms of research and development, all the way from designing and developing our own race cars, to simulators, to running cars in racing series and rallying all over the world. We also do a lot in the Asian Classic Car Championship, so do look out for us. For any information, do contact us with the number down below.
And we are back to the racing action. Ladies and gentlemen, you join us at the 5th round of the AIMC Championship, and right now Toyota Motorsports is in the lead with Dante's Toyota Motorsports in second, Outhouse FCR in third place, Team A that is, and 778 Autosports, AFA 778 Autosports battling with these two URT machines, URT Black Pink and URT Black. They're on separate, and oh, that's a big contact there. Oh, that's a rollover there from the unfortunate driver there, Afik Fadlan. Big rollover coming out on the exit of Blanchimont. That's going to be really bad news for those guys. But now let's see what happens coming up into Blanchimont. We'll have a quick look at the replay. Cho Fon Pang was right behind Afik Fadlan coming into this long left-hander. A lot of bravery coming through the corner here, and they're going side by side coming into Blanchimont. And unfortunately at Blanchimont, very difficult to get the braking right, and it looks like Afik Fadlan tried to keep pace but just ran a little bit wide, hitting the grass there, and that has pitched him into a massive barrel roll. So unfortunately he is in the pits right now with repairs. That is a very bad luck for the 778 team. But it looks like they might, even though they might not be out of the race, but they're going to be quite a ways back. Chuk Fan Pang still in the battle with his teammate Dominic Ang, and Nazmi is right behind as well. So it's going to be very careful indeed to try and make sure that doesn't happen again. But this could be very tricky in the going through Malmedy and down into the Brussels hairpin, the Rivage as it used to be known. To be very careful on the brakes to go through here. Meanwhile, side by side again, Tiko Ezan Lei going side by side with, I believe that was Shopian Side in the Toyota Motorsports Revolution car. Iman Danish doing a very good job to keep that car up as high as possible, but it looks like Shopian unfortunately lost another position there, going into 9th position, so he's going to try and push as hard as he can to try and get back up into the top positions there. But that's Team URT Pink up into 8th place. There's action all up and down the racetrack right now, and we are an hour into a 2.4 hour race, 2.5 hours almost.
Izan did an amazing job recovering from Jan's mishap on the first stint.
Absolutely. The Tiko Izan's really pushing hard to try and get that car up the leaderboard. Perhaps they're going for a short stint to try and recover some track positions. But if I'm not mistaken, all the cars are still out on the lead lap, are they?
Let me check out the pit stops. You want to see pit stops? They're all done too. Product, maybe due to his damage in lap 1, he has done 3. And I think Kelvin T just entered. He did 3 stops already. Absolutely.
Our analyst who served his first stint in the commentary booth right now, he is doing his second stint out there on the track. The Hermanos Veloces team have gone up 2 positions since the start of the race. Unfortunately, at the start, very close to the back of the grid, and with an extra stop there, it looks like Kelvin T will be pushing as hard as he can to try and gain some positions. There's fresh air ahead of him, but there is the car of Eddie Adrian right behind him in that Padawan SRCA machine. Really pushing very hard indeed to try and close that gap. So a bit of a battle about to brew at the back of the field. But right now, this is your leader, Ilham Halabi, in first place for Toyota Motorsports. The team doing a very good job to try and stay in the lead for as long as they can. Dante's Toyota Motorsports in second position, followed by Autohaus FCR Performance Team A. Tengku Irsyad doing a long stint, but Ahmad Norazam, the second driver that has been in that car. So that's going to be a very interesting tactic from the Dante's team to try and keep their man in the car for as long as possible. Again, the standard sort of way of doing the endurance races, to try and keep the driver in the car as long as possible and then change him out and have long stints for the drivers so that they're used to the car, they're comfortable, and they know what pace they have to push the car. They don't have to relearn the car every time they get into it. Cho Fan Pang was involved in that fortunate incident earlier on in the stint, but right now he seemed to have recovered quite well and he's up into 5th position. And he is trailing his teammate Dominic Ang, who has also spent quite a long time behind the wheel of that particular Kia Optima as well. Again, another triple stint, I believe, on the way for that team. But right now they're pushing the cars along at quite the rate, but we might be coming into another pit stop fairly soon. Shami Azri is in 10th place, and again it really is a case of what sort of these two drivers have been battling all up and down the leaderboard. They seem to be rising up the leaderboard in sync and going down the leaderboard in sync as well. Shopian Side getting very sideways coming out of the coming through Stavilo corner, but Shami Azri and Shopian Side perhaps reigniting that battle that their previous co-drivers had at the first few stints of the race. Kelvin T, meanwhile, he's lost position to Eddie Adrian, but he's going to be pushing very hard to try and get that back. Believe you me, Kelvin, just as much of a racer as everyone else up on track, and he will want to get as many positions as possible. Unfortunately, these drivers quite a few seconds back from the Android King car that's up ahead of them in terms of track position. You can see there, it looks like those guys are about a kilometre away, if not 2 kilometres away, so these guys will be pushing very hard indeed to try and gain that gap. But again, it's a very long race. There's no point in giving up this early into a 2.5 hour race, so they'll be pushing as hard as they can to try and get that position back. Nazmi Mazli is still pushing very hard in order to try and battle with these two drivers, the URT Black and the URT Black team, Black-Pink team, I do apologise. Chok Fan Pang in 5th position and Dominic Ang in 4th. It looks like Chok Fan Pang might be a target for the, let me get this right, the X-Fighter. I can't remember. I do have to apologise, I completely missed the last 2 movies in the latest trilogy, but these cars are inspired by Star Wars, hence the Padawan theme that Team Padawan have put on that car there. It looks absolutely awesome indeed, but Nazmi Mazli might be trying to use the Force to get past the car up ahead.
The Force is strong on this one.
Yeah. And yeah, it looks like Nasby is able to gain a little bit of time. He is in the slipstream. You can see the relative times go down, like ticking down, 100th by 100th. Perhaps in the next couple of laps, these two guys might have a position swap. Let's see how they going through here. Cho Fan Pang, incidentally, really benefiting from driving behind a man as experienced as Dominic and they're really starting to work as a team now. Earlier on they tried to start working as a team, but they were too busy battling. Unfortunately, that let Tengku Irsyad past and up ahead, along with a couple of other drivers as well. But Chok Fan Pang now starting to get into a rhythm of working with his teammate. Going up through Eau Rouge and Radion, you can see the cars. These drivers like to try and rotate the car with the rear end in order to make that work. But now blasting down the Camel straight. Let's see if Nasby decides to pull out of the slipstream. Will he do so? He decides not to. Perhaps he's still trying to follow these cars for as long as possible. Perhaps try to reap the benefits of getting a tow, or maybe try and learn Chok Van Pang's driving style just a little bit in order to try and make the best decision as to where to overtake. On board with Chok Van Pang. Nasby Masli right behind him, pushing as hard as possible in order to try and gain that pace back. But it looks like Chok Van Pang has more pace in the middle sector of the lap in comparison to Nasmi. And this might mean that Nasmi will have to push or find a little bit more pace in the car in order to try and make that overtaking maneuver work. Now we're coming up to lap 23. Shami Azri is still battling the cars around him. He has left Shopian side behind by 5 seconds, and now he is moving up through the field, and he's got the man of Tuku Ezan, who made a brief cameo in the chat earlier on. And Tuku Ezan will definitely be pushing as hard as he can to try and get into keep Shami Azri behind in the yellow Kia, pushing as hard as they can to go through the bends here, being very, very careful to try and maintain as much speed as possible. You don't want to slide the car too much around Campus and Stavlo in order to try and keep the speed up. But now it looks like Shami Azri is getting closer and closer to the back of Tuku Ezan. Will this be an overtaking maneuver? You can see Tuku Ezan get on the brakes there just to try and make sure the car goes around Shami Azri a little bit wild and woolly. Tuku Ezan very nice and neat through that corner there. Could that be a difference? It looks like there won't be any deep late braking maneuvers into the chicane, but Tuku Ezan isn't quite clear of the battle behind him just yet. Meanwhile, moving up to the battle between 4th, 5th and 6th place. Chok Van Pang is still in this uncomfortable situation. He's close enough to try something on his teammate, but he might not want to do that for fear of trying to lose too much speed through battling, but he has to keep that man, Nazmi Masli, behind as well to try and keep him at bay in order to increase the chances of success. But it looks like Tuku Ezan Leh has been overtaken by Shami Azri, and it looks like Shami Azri has managed to keep that place, and Tuku Ezan Leh has had to acquiesce and go into 9th position. But Shami Azri is definitely going to really start pulling away quite quickly there. It looks like Shami perhaps had quite a lot more pace in that Outhouse FCR Performance Team B car in comparison to Tuku Ezan Leh's Team URT Pink machine. So this is going to be very, very interesting indeed. Nazmi Masli, meanwhile, he is still in this almost a high-speed chess game. The tension really is rising between these three drivers. Who's going to make the first move? Who's going to head? Who's going to make the defensive move? And of course, who's going to go into the pits? Because Ilham Hlabi has now gone in for the third stint. We expected the third stint at around lap 24, and we have it right now. And now the cars begin to pile into the pit lanes at the start of lap 25. Tuku Ershad still in the car. Ilham Hlabi also still in the car. Let's see if there's any driver changes in there. But let's look at this battle and let's see if there's any change in strategy. And it looks like Nazmi Masli decides to go into the pits. So perhaps that releases a little bit of pressure from behind Chok Van Pang, but it might go in Nazmi's way, because as he comes out of the pit lane, one would imagine that he'd be able to get out and begin to push quite hard on an empty track. So that might be the strategy there. So far, currently in the lead, Outhouse FCR Performance Team A, followed by Team URT Black and Team URT Black Pink. Although it's worth noting that these drivers at the front, the top three, or in fact the top four, have not yet pitted. So we're coming into the pit window for these cars. The pit window beginning to get ever wider as the different strategies begin to go apart and come back together again. It looks like Michael Hafiz is now in the car for Torak Motorsports, and will he be able to keep the car in the lead? It looks like he comes out just ahead of the wrap of the of Muhaimin, who is now finally a lap down in the yellow Torak Motorsports Asia car, and looks like Michael is pushing that Kia as hard as he can. He'll want to try and keep that lead, or keep as close to the lead as possible, in order to give that team a fighting chance at winning the race. But Michael Huff is now up out of the pits into 6th place. Dante's Torak Motorsports, however, is 6 seconds up the road. Sorry, 12 seconds up the road from the Torak Motorsports machine. It looks like the Zainul Hazim has indeed managed to jump the main A team coming out of the pit. So that's going to be very interesting in terms of strategy to see what these guys can do. Meanwhile, that is our leader Ahmad Norazam, who has a swarm of Team URT cars behind him. This could be a very interesting battle for provisional lead of the race. It'll be nice for Ahmad Norazam to just sort of claim that lead, but it looks like all 3 cars have gone into the pits. That is amazing stuff.
Synchronized pit stopping.
Absolutely. Now that didn't look like the URT teams were reacting to Ahmad Norazam. It looks like all 3 of them were planning to go in on lap 26. That's absolutely amazing. Looks very foreshadowing indeed. It'll be interesting to see who is able to get out of the pits and in the lead of that particular battle there. But right now we see that Shami Azri will take over the lead for the race. I do believe he has still yet to stop, but Dante's Torak Motorsports has, and Torak Motorsports behind him also has. So that is going to be very interesting indeed for the leaders. Yes, it looks like the Outhouse FCR Performance Team B car is yet to stop. So effectively, once this group of pit stops clears, Zainul Hazim will be in the lead, followed by Michael Hafiz in 2nd place. Dante's Torak Motorsports leads the main Torak Motorsports team in this race effectively. Shami Azri is so far in the lead by a gap of 4.8 seconds, but he'll have to pit very, very shortly. And it looks like definitely there's quite a few differences in terms of pit lane strategy. The 778 Autosports guys have managed to get themselves up into 8th position, but they are also a pit stop behind. And the Hermanos Veloces team have also dived into the pit lane. It'll be interesting to see what will happen with those guys. Very close to the top 10. Meanwhile, Chok Fan Pang is still battling. Unfortunately, he's had to give up some of the positions to the cars that were behind him. In particular, Taufik Tahir, who was in the Padawan SRCB car, or has gone into the Padawan SRCB car. So that's going to be very interesting indeed to see that Taufik Tahir has managed to get the car out ahead of Chok Fan Pang. So common sort of theory suggests that a driver change is going to mean a much longer pit stop. But perhaps Taufik Tahir has gone into the car for a short stint. They've underfueled the car just to make sure that they're ahead of the Team URT driver, and they're going to try and push the car as hard as possible. this is where we're going to see the variable strategies come into play. Some of the drivers short stopping, some of the drivers long stopping. It's going to be very interesting indeed to see whether a short stint or a long stint will work out best at the end of the race. So of the 3 cars who pitted off the head of the field, Taufik Tahir has changed, Aman Razak has stayed in the car, and Chok Fan Pang has also stayed in the car. Of course, staying in the car might be an advantage in terms of the pit stop length and of the driver being used to the car for a long period of time, but of course it could be a risk in the fact that the driver might begin to tire in the car with all the concentration required to race at this level, and you really have to balance that, the driver fatigue from their sort of obvious being used to the car and the pit stop advantage that you gain from staying in the car. So that'll be very interesting to see how that pans out for some of the drivers who are double stinting or even triple stinting at this rate, to see how that goes. We're 1 hour and 11 minutes into this 2 hour and 24-minute race. We're very close indeed to the halfway point. And now, it's hot and sweaty out of the very hot touring car is Kelvin T, who's joined us back in studio.
Hi, I'm back.
How'd your stint go?
I think okay. We had an interesting fight with the Padawan car, and I think we chose to have a different strategy. So I eked out one more lap. The last lap was pretty slow. Yeah, it's again 2:48 there. But yeah, we managed to squeeze one extra lap out of that stint. So let's see how that ends up, towards the end. Of course, the Padawan car is now 20-something seconds ahead. But I think we will now have one more extra lap. We will have we have probably 3 more shorter stints. So let's see how that happens.
Absolutely, and of course, a lot of this middle part of an endurance race is about setting up for the end of the race, isn't it?
Yeah, I think our team, we calculated that the best way to go is to actually eke out a little bit more laps as and when we can, if we can. It's not so easy, the instinct to pedal to the metal is still there. But as we see Dante's Torak Motorsport go into the lead, and they head into the bus stop chicane, but they suddenly slowed down for some reason. Yeah,
I believe they understand the fact that Shami Azri he's in fact going into the pits there. Shami Azri was a pit stop behind the 2 drivers there, but it looks like Dante's team also had to go into the pits. So those 2 drivers have gone into the pits there, obviously.
And it looks like he just ran out of fuel.
Oh, that must have been why he backed off and let Shami Azri go past again.
Oh no!
It's going to be heartbreaking.
Where's the lollipop man?
Oh, is he gonna make it?
Now he's in the pits, so if he does have to, unfortunately he has to stop there, but he doesn't have too far to go in order to get back to his pits. But that was heartbreakingly short of the finish line, and that means this man, Michael Hafiz, is now in the lead of the race, and he must feel just a little bit happy for himself. He's been one of our commentators in the old Invitational series, and he is very bright, happy and cheerful man, and I bet you he is very bright, happy and cheerful for leading in this Merdeka Spa Endurance.
Yeah, yesterday, in less than 24 hours ago, he won the Super 15 in MSF.
Absolutely.
With a very victorious win, and he raced for 45 minutes, I think. Yeah, about 45 minutes. So similar to I'm guessing if iRacing kept his edginess or keeps his response in the real life racing, I guess I will yet to interview him.
Yeah, if I'm not wrong, Michael is with the 916 Kalisa, am I right?
Yeah, similar color scheme to this car.
So let's see if the same color scheme, same livery, same Todak car can do 2 wins in a row.
Yeah, that will be a tremendous Merdeka weekend.
Absolutely. And I do have a bit of a theory when it comes to real-life racing drivers going into the AIMC Championship. I was with Afizul Jai when he finally got back into his drift car. He had a little practice Toyota Starlet drift car. He finally got back into that car, and he did very, very well in the very next race. So perhaps with Michael Hafiz finally getting some racing in real life, maybe he might do quite well indeed in this race.
His last race was, I think, almost half a year ago. Yeah.
So yeah, as you can see, I mean, sim racers going to real racing and real racers coming to sim racing. The lines between the two are really quite close nowadays, isn't it right?
Absolutely. And it just goes to show that with iRacing, the accuracy is there. Now, of course, my favorite thing to say is that obviously racing in the sim, for me, it's about between 40 and 60% identical to real world racing, but that's no knock on sim racing. For instance, a flight sim is only about 30% realistic in terms of how hard it is, and that's actually very, very accurate in comparison to any other form of racing you can have in the virtual world. So I think perhaps some of the real life racing drivers are starting to get the hang of the quirks of iRacing, and in the parts where it is absolutely identical, they are definitely doing very well indeed.
Yes, indeed. So yeah, I mean, just wanted to take this opportunity to maybe just give a little bit of a story, you know, of what happened earlier in our team, because something interesting happened, but fortunately we didn't end up like how Zainul did, you know. Unfortunately for him, for the Dante's Torak Motorsport team, they just about ran out of fuel. I completed my last stint, the last lap of 2:48, and just pitted with 0.1 liters in the fuel tank, crawling into the pit lane and thanking the gods that actually I did it. But the reason why I had to do this and push out one more lap, I think for this particular stint, Javier, my teammate, will actually probably look to push one more lap as well, is because in the first round of pit stops, we made a mistake because of our inexperience. We actually had the driver swap, but very interestingly, before the fuel could go in, before the tires went in, we actually just ran out of the pits. So coming in at I believe was P12 back then, I think we had to lose another few positions because we had to just come into the pit one more time the next lap, cruising into the pit, running on fumes as well. And now we're trying to make back for that particular mistake actually. So, you know, it's a bit of an inexperience on our part, but I think everyone is enjoying this race. So let's see how far we can get into this race as we look at Javier right now running in P15 with the Dante's Torak Motorsport about 20 seconds ahead. Actually, 1 second ahead, sorry. So now we look at the number 4 car of Chok Fen Pang, and he's chasing the Outdoors FCR Performance car of driven by Ahmad Norazam in P3 right in front, running in a very solid P3 with half a second between them. And this is where the slipstream really comes into effect, and both of them really using each other to progress further in this race, as the Outdoors FCR Performance Team A was running in about the mid-pack earlier in the race, but now has hauled themselves up to P3. So what a good performance indeed from Norazam and Amir Farid earlier in the race.
Absolutely. And as I was saying earlier before I accidentally bumped my mute button. Digital mute, blessing and a curse. But I guess we used to have 12-hour races down at Sepang, and you used to sit there and strategize and try and think about things and all the rest of it. But the only way you can learn for sure is to get into this sort of racing and to try. And you learn a lot of things very, very quickly in the race there. And it looks like you guys have managed to get your strategy back on form, so to speak. And it looks like also Norazam has managed to get his team's strategy back into line.
I think it's just getting a little bit too hard to track the multiple types of strategies on play here, because everyone is just trying one way or another to get the better of each other on track, right? This is a very competitive bunch, I can say. Everyone is doing their utmost best, and you know, we're just fighting to the best of our abilities. But both on track as well as off tracks, because I think a lot of the teams we actually have one guy behind there doing all the strategy, and I hear that the Auto House guys are one of the best at doing this. So I look forward to have a good performance from the Auto House FCR teams, Team A and Team B. So let's see how they finish. But I think both of them are progressing very well up the roster, and I think they should finish in quite a good position towards the end of the race, barring anything happen. I mean, let's hope the commentator's curse doesn't occur to me as well.
Yeah, I mean, I've unfortunately had to infect the usual, my usual co-commentator with that. So hopefully you don't get infected by the same malaise as I have been. But yeah, Ahmad Norazam and I guess the whole Outhouse FCR team. I know Amit Faridian is very, very good at strategy and strategy calculations, and they have a couple of other guys behind the scenes that do it, not only in the sim racing world, but also in real life racing as well. As we saw during the Medeka race that's just passed, they were quite good at calculating this sort of stuff, and perhaps they're bringing that real life experience into sim racing right now.
Yeah, so that's the difference between the enduro and a sprint race. Some say the sprint races are more exciting to watch. I would agree with that. But if you look into the deep nuances of racing, definitely the enduro serves up a much more appetizing palette here, because it provides such an interesting view on multiple teams' approach. Because obviously different drivers and different cars at different times will have different performance ranges, and you will need to calculate within those windows to achieve the best time in order for you to finish the race. And of course, as we hit the 1 hour 22-minute mark, we are approaching about 1 hour countdown to the end of the race. So this indeed is the mid-race. I'm looking forward to see how things continue to change and how the positions continue to move. But ultimately, we are looking at a very fun race here. Different strategies, and so just keeping an eye out to see ultimately which strategy out prevails. But the clear leader at the moment is the Todak Motorsports car right ahead at P1, and I believe there is a close fight which we are looking at right now between the URT Blackpink and the Outlaws FCR Performance Team A, driven by Norazam and also Chokfun Pang behind. This should be a quite tasty fight, or rather a tasty cruise, as we see Pang obviously trying to stay as close as possible, but let's see if he actually makes a move down the straight or into some of the corners, because this can show that this can show the intent of the team, whether it is to run longer than usual or to just overtake as much cars as possible on track while hitting the pits more times than the other team. So let's see what happens and goes between these as they go into Puhon.
Absolutely, and it looks like from what we can see in the last few pit stops, especially the last pit stops, I can see that the Team URT Black and the Team URT Blackpink drivers have actually split their strategies somewhat. And even though they are doing very similar things, like keeping the drivers in the cars for as long as possible and doing all the rest of those types of maneuvers, but from what I can see, they've elected to keep one car out for a lap longer than the other car, and this could be a very interesting sort of strategy splitting tactic. It's sort of hedging their bets, because the URT Black and URT Black pit car are very close to each other out on track, but it looks like the Todak Motorsports car has gone into the pits.
Yes, and it's going to be interesting to see if they actually perform a driver swap this time around, as Michael Hafiz, as what my co-commentator Matt has just mentioned, won the race yesterday at Sepang, and let's see if they can continue to win this race at Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium as well. So as they head into their pit box and makes the pit stop, and let's take a look and rejoin them later to see if actually there is a driver swap between these people, this team. So as we now focus our attention on Freddie Young, which is now in the lead of the race, having run a few extra laps down in the earlier stints. Showing that their strategy is also viable, but as we have commentated earlier in the session, this is just about the halfway point of the race. So very early times and very early times to say that which strategy is the best. But both are all very capable drivers, and I think this should be rather interesting to see.
Absolutely. The Team URT Black car now has the job of trying to push as hard as possible in order to try and get that effective gap down between themselves and the Todak Motorsports team. And it really is a case of remote control racing, because you really don't know what the other driver is doing, but you are effectively racing against each other in terms of pace. So it's going to be very challenging indeed to see. And it looks like they've kept Michael Huffers in the car. Perhaps this is a bit of insurance to try and make that stop as short as possible.
Yeah, so I mean, with your experience, Matt, I'd just like to ask, would it be better if we are focusing on the attention of the battle between the currently P2 cars of Autof's FCR Performance Team A and the URT Blackpink? Would it be better if you are in front, or would you be preferred to be the one chasing? Actually, what do you think, in your experience?
I mean, it really depends on the drivers. I know quite a few drivers who prefer to be behind, and that is purely so that they can see how the car performs, the car head performs throughout the course of a stint, and they'll try and internalize that information and try and make decisions based on it. But some drivers prefer to have an absolutely empty space up ahead, and it also depends on the vehicle, because in a touring car you're not going to be affected by aerodynamics too much, but in a GT3 car you could have the problems of aerodynamic wash, so that could be another thing that perhaps make you want to go and overtake the car up ahead.
I see. That's a good insight indeed. As we look at the battle now of P9 and P10 between Shopian Said and Malvinderjit Singh. Malvinderjit having done already 5 stops compared to the more common 3 stops that Shopian has done so far. What do you think of this battle, Matt?
Well, quite hard to see that the Rad Pro Drag team have managed to get that car up into the top 10 and battling for 9th place. That's going to be a very interesting move into Pruon, and Melvin, fair play to him, he's managed to make that stick, and Shopian has of course given him enough racing room to make that happen. That was definitely a overtaking move that required a bit of cooperation there, but it's absolutely fascinating to see that through good strategy and obviously very quick driving, they've managed to get themselves up into the top 10 position. So that's very heartening to see after their rather disastrous start.
Yeah, so very cool driving from both of them, as we now again refocus our attention on Chok Fun Pang as well as Ahmad Norazam at the front of the pack. This time we see them very close, but clearly you can see Chok Fun Pang backing off. I believe he intends to stay behind and reap the benefits of the slipstream. Just wondering how far and how long would he want to do that, because ultimately you do want to have a clear space where you can push. So let's see if their strategies ultimately merge between both of them, or they actually will drift away in terms of the strategy as they go on into the race. But at the moment, both cars are very close and very tight indeed.
Also, you can't, of course, discount one other thing. Ilham Halabi is pretty famous for this, following the other driver almost as an intimidation move, just to show that you definitely have the pace, but you're choosing not to overtake. That is a perfectly valid strategy in this sort of situation. Chok Fun Pang might just be trying to put as much pressure as possible on Ahmad Norazam and get an overtaking mover that way. Perhaps just waiting for a mistake from the man up ahead. So Ahmad Norazam will have to be a little bit wise to that tactic and try not to give in to the pressure as well, because it looks like Chok Fun Pang might in fact have a little bit of pace advantage right at this moment.
Yeah, now as we see a lot of the cars going into the pit for their 4th stop, this would be a regular scheduled stop unless there were some damages. But let's look at refocus our attention on the battle of P2 and P3 going across there, as Ahmad Norazam unfortunately probably suffers from a little bit of latency issues resulting in the blinking of the car or some server issues of iRacing. Going into the bus stop chicane with Chok Fun Pang very closely to him, and this is indeed a fight that is going to go on for a long time, I feel, but they are all very close to each other.
You can definitely see that happening, and it looks like that is not going to be a battle that's going anywhere very soon. Freddie Ang decides to dive into the pits. That makes that battle for 2nd and 3rd a battle for 1st and 2nd. Iman Danish comes out. Unfortunately, he's quite far back in 14th position. Not too sure what happened to those guys. Perhaps a bit of a mistake in the pit stops. They were doing quite well in the early part of the race, but unfortunately they have gone back a little bit. But Iman Danish is the man to try and push their way back up the field. He did a fantastic first couple of stints, so perhaps they're hoping he'll be able to get that car further up the field than it has been.
Yeah, so this is now a dilemma for Iman, right? Because he himself being a very fast driver and was running probably, if I remember correctly, in the top 5 in an earlier part of the race. He is now effectively stuck behind the leading duo of Ahmad Norazam and Chok Fun Pang as well. So he has now the dilemma of choosing to either follow closely and also run a slower lap time, because he obviously just emerged from the pits and has fresher tires and a full fuel tank and can go very fast and very aggressive. So now he has to make the decision. Does he want to attack and unlap himself and potentially put the front two at a little bit of risk as well, or does he want to sit behind and reap the rewards of the slipstream? So that part is still unknown as he goes very closely post Pohon into the next turn. I believe, looking at the performance right now, I believe it is in his intention to attack and actually unlap himself from the leaders.
Absolutely. Now, if I was in his shoes, I would probably wait till the end of this lap in order to try and make any sort of maneuver happen, because I suspect these two drivers will be thinking about a pit stop in the next couple of laps. So if the pace difference isn't too big, that would be what I would be thinking of doing. See what these guys do, and if they decide to stay out, then we'll have to try and make a move on Kemmel Straight or around Walshamont.
Yeah, so as we see the 3 different cars taking slightly different lines across the corner just now, while some of them braked, some of them chose not to, obviously running different types of performance right now. As we see both of them, the P1 and P2 cars, dive into the pits, at freeing Danish from the dilemma that he has to make, and now he has the clear room, the clear pace to get into his own groove. And now we refocus our attention on Shami Azri of Autohaus FCR Performance Team B, pardon my mistake, currently running in P3.
Absolutely, and that was actually a very smart move there by Iman Danish, because he's now gone from 15th place right up to 11th position, overtaking quite a few drivers in the pits there. So he's now gone from quite far back, and now he's going to perhaps be thinking of getting into the top 10, and perhaps with his pace, we know he's quite quick, he might be able to close up the gap with some of the other cars up ahead. But now Shami Azri is in the lead effectively. TPRT Blackpink and Autohaus FCR Performance Team A have gone into the pits there. Michael Hafiz in second place. He is effectively our leader as soon as Shami Azri goes into the pits. Freddie Ang there in 5th place. He's going to overtake his teammate as well as the Autohaus FCR car. He's going to go up in 3rd position. It looks like Freddie Ang's job is to now try and put his foot down and really push that Kia as hard as it'll go to try and catch and make up that 16-second deficit to the car up ahead. And it's going to be very interesting indeed to see if he can do that, if he can pull that off. You can see that Jazrin Jali is now in the car for Autohaus FCR Performance Team A, and he'll be pushing quite hard to try and catch up with the car up ahead, which is that Rab Pro Drag Esports car, which rather amazingly is now up into 4th position. So that just goes to show you do not want to give up in sim racing or in endurance racing of any kind.
I think I agree with you, man. That's one of the most important things out there, right? I mean, this is a long race, but even so, even in a sprint race, I would say the first rule is if you want to finish first, you have to finish first. You have to finish, right?
Yeah.
So never give up and keep at it. So I think we are witnessing the up and coming recovery drive of the team RB Pro Drag Esport, which has managed to hold themselves up to P4 again, as we now look at the P5 car of Jazrin Jali. So to our viewers out there, I think just to clear up a little bit of confusion, this car was previously driven by Ahmad Norazam as well as Amir Farid and was in the yellow livery before the pit, and now has transformed, repainted during the pit to have
that was a good paint shop.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's a paint shop pit, you know.
If you thought the Grand Theft Auto San Andreas paint shops are quick, these guys are really quick.
Yeah.
They do it in less than 30 seconds.
Yeah, and look at that. You know, they managed to get multiple layers on not just a simple coat of paint. Yeah, you see. You can see that.
Yeah. There's sign writing on that car.
Speaking of pit stop times, Kelvin, what's the average time for refuel?
Would be around 55 seconds.
Oh, and the driver change is not within that time. You have an added time of driver change, right?
About 20 seconds.
Oh,
Yeah, so I mean this paint job is rather quick. So yeah, I mean just to clear it up out there just now, because we were looking at the fight between before they pitted the P1 and P2 car of Ahmad Norazam as well as Chofun Pang, and now the car of Norazam has been replaced by Jezrin Jali now in the car P5, and following him is still Chofun Pang behind in the URT light pink car. So this car was previously yellow and did GTA, like what Matt has mentioned, the GTA style repaint, where they came out with a new coat of paint.
You've gotta love the iRacing virtual pit mechanics. They probably work much harder than I do in the pits in real life. You couldn't pay me to put a new paint job or even a vinyl onto the car in a pit
okay.
stop.
We're waiting for Shami to send his car to the paint shop.
Yeah, so we now have the Outdoors FCR Performance Team B of Shami Azri as well, which is supposed to be in green as well. So let's see.
Let's see if they could fix that. But interesting to note, they've actually gone a lot longer than I thought they would in this stint. They've only actually done 3 pit stops, so perhaps they're doing something very, very strange here. Their last lap was a 2:38.822. Shami Azri still in the car from early on in the race. They might be trying to go for a real endurance style tactic and run that car for as long as possible out on track.
Yeah, I think you just need to calculate the difference between pitting one time or pushing all the way, right? Because ultimately pitting will cost you about a minute or two. I mean, a minute or more if you actually perform a driver change. So if you don't do a driver change, you would probably finish a full tank of fuel and 4 tires in about 55 seconds. So you probably have to calculate if that is worth saving, or it's actually worth going all out hell for leather and pushing all the way in order to get the best lap times possible. But it's very interesting to see that, like what you mentioned just now, Matt, that Shami Azri is actually out there for a very long time. And I can tell you it's a very hard thing to do, because you need to basically lift and coast. You feel you are very slow compared to the cars around you, and you have to concede positions. But ultimately you get a clean track. That's one of the benefits, but also you lose the benefit of a slipstream. So, thoughts.
It is a very difficult situation to go in, and he does in fact go to pit. Shami Azri, after that monster stint, has managed to get himself into the pits there. He has led a few laps, which probably ticks a lot of boxes for some guys in an endurance race. That can sometimes be a bit of a badge of honor. Yes, I have led the Merdeka Spa endurance race. You can put that pin on your jacket any day. But now he's gone into the pits, so that releases Michael Hafiz. He is now up in first position. Funnily enough, he's only about between 1 and 2 seconds a lap faster than Shami Azri, so perhaps that strategy might work out. But Tonak Motorsports is still in the lead at this point in the race. They have led for virtually the majority of the race, and it looks like, barring any situations, knock on wood, it looks like it's going to be a very good race for them.
Yes, indeed. All right, so I'm going to have to bid adieu right now, and I'm going to go back. So perhaps I'll see you later.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us, and do come around anytime.
Yeah, thank you so much, and good luck to you in the commentary box, Max and Cairo. See you guys.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah.
And that was Kelvin T, who had just got out of the touring car in his racing overalls, all sweaty, and joined us in the studio.
Oh,
Virtually speaking, of course.
The paint shop guys are not around.
Perhaps they're still reloading their guns, or perhaps Shami Azri is just feeling a little bit stingy and doesn't want to pay the field up. But he is staying in the car right now, and that means that perhaps the next driver will be the man who hopefully be able to get that car into its proper livery.
You have to change the driver to...
Yeah.
You got to exit the car to get it painted.
Yeah, I believe so. So, just like in GTA, funnily enough. But Chop Van Pang as is still in 5th place, and he is really going to be paying a lot of attention to the battle up ahead, because not only are these two drivers very close to each other, Malvinajit and Jazrin really put hard in 3rd and 4th position, but also he'll be waiting to attack should any one of these two drivers make a mistake. But Melvin really has done very well to try and get that FCR Performance Team A car right up the leaderboard. Sorry, the Rad Pro Drag esports car right up the leaderboard. I do apologise, I've only just opened up my Monster Energy, so for those of you who are wondering what I've been drinking, I've moved on from iced tea to something a little bit stronger just to keep the spirits up during this race. But now they're side by side. Jazrin Jali is going to try and go the outside of Malvinajit Singh through this legendary Blanchimont corner, and it looks like Jazrin Jali has managed to actually make it. That is a very brave manoeuvre. For those of you who are wondering, it's not a flat-out corner like it is in Formula 1, but it looks like Jazrin Jali has managed to make that overtaking manoeuvre around the outside of a very, very difficult corner indeed, and it looks like the Rad Pro Drag guys are deciding to pit in order to relieve some of that pressure there, but it looks like Jazrin Jali has now finally been released. Will he be able to pull away from Chok Fan Pang?
Yeah, he did that overtake in a 2:37 minute lap. It's not that fast for lap time, but they all, I think, must be running on 2:38 or 2:37 times also.
Absolutely. This is actually a lot quicker than I would expect them to go. My back of the restaurant menu calculations from yesterday told me that they, just as Kelvin T had said earlier on, you would be thinking of doing anywhere between a 2:39 to a 2:41 race pace in order to try and get the fuel up, but they've definitely gone much better in fuel consumption throughout the course of the week to be able to go 2:37s and still pit when they are pitting. So that's going to be very interesting indeed for these guys. They're actually, 2:37 is actually quite quick in comparison to all the other drivers at the moment, obviously with the tyre wear situation the way it is. But look at that Kia looming ever large in Jazrin Jali's rear view mirror. Perhaps Chok Fan Pang is taking a leaf out of Ilham Halabi's book and just pressuring the car ahead as much as possible. It doesn't look like he's going for any obvious overtaking maneuvers, but perhaps he's just waiting for that little chink in the armour before they go out. But Sharel Norafuddin is now in the Rad Pro Drag machine, and they're going to be putting their foot flat to the floor in order to try and get that car back up to where it was in the top 5. Sharel Norafuddin really pushing hard there. We're starting to come into the next round of pit stops here. The laps are beginning to count down at quite a rate right now, and it's going to be very interesting to see what the leaders especially will do.
Let's load up the total pit stops. We are seeing all of them doing at least 4 pit stops already.
And it's amazing
and
to
Toda just went in.
Yes. Just as I predicted, Michael Hafiz has to bring the car in and lap 39. So maintaining that roughly 8-lap stint length, he comes into the pits there. He's done a very fantastic job over the last 2. Just as I said, he had to pull forward ever so slightly there. Looks like Saiful Arifin is going to get back into the machine there. You can see him in his Valtteri Bottas style helmet with Monster Energy backing, so cheers to that. But
so he's one of the first to do 5.
Yeah.
If you don't, also Hermanos Velotes and Toda Asia is already done 5 also.
Yep.
So that depends on how long his pits are, right?
Yep.
And we should be seeing other cars going in also soon.
Yeah. So interestingly, the drivers up ahead that were following the Toronto Motorsport machine into the pits in the previous couple of stints have decided to stay out. Whether they haven't noticed that he's pitted yet, or whether Toronto Motorsports is slightly off on everyone else's pit strategy. But Nigel Hafiz, after a brilliant 2 stints in the car, has given the car back to Saiful Arifin, and they'll be back out on to the track very shortly, if not already out on track. Yes,
I
they
wanna.
are.
How about you go visit their pits, product motorsport room. I'll
Yep.
just keep. Just ask Michael if he's available.
Alrighty then, I'm going to head off and try and secure Michael
Their
Hafiz
common
for
room,
your
team
Yeah.
common room.
Absolutely. So I'll be back in just a few clicks.
Okay, currently we're just seeing Chok Fun Pang staying in pace behind Jazrin Jali. So he's taking advantage of the slipstream, and maybe to this advantage he can save more on it. It's more of an advantage to maintain this position for him and let JJ do the stress part. And we'll be soon be seeing the pits for the 5th pit stop soon. And meanwhile, Matt is on the is heading up to Todak Motorsports common room. He will be inviting Michael to come over to the studio and give some thoughts and experiences on. Here he goes. Tu dia Super 15 champion Merdeka Enduro. Kita congrats je.
Thank you lang.
Okay, macam mana experience semua? Kau dapat 2 stint tadi
Dapat 2 stint.
So, macam mana pengalaman sim endurance?
Dia menebarkan sebab tail pairing dengan alien sim racing ni kan. So dia ada stress yang lain sebab kita takut kita buat mistake. So macam memang play safe tadi, cuba minimumkan incident point untuk bagi Ipen habiskan habis incident point tu. So,
tadi dah berapa incident point dah masa kau ambil kereta?
Waktu ambil kereta Cik dapat 3. Lepas Cik ambil Cik tambah 2 je incident point.
Okey lah tu.
So ada balance untuk Ipen membelasah.
Kereta condition okey?
Kereta condition okey, tak ada apa-apa repair pun, tak ada rosak apa-apa. So kita tengok yang terbaik lah, apa yang boleh buat nanti.
Sekarang ni kau antara yang first buat 5 stop. So kau tengok nanti yang atas 6 position atas tu akan masuk juga, dan harap-harap Ipin boleh boleh maintain ke depan lah lepas tu.
Kita harapkan yang terbaik lah sebab setiap team ni dia lain strategi. So kita tengok strategi siapa yang berhasil. So sebab ni endurance kita sangat panjang apa semua kan. Jadi tak dapat nak predict awal siapa menang siapa kalah. So kita tengok sampai habis. Dia macam race endurance yang betul lah kan. Mana kita tahu kan.
Itu dia. Saya ada teori sikit sebenarnya. Saya nak tanya Michael. Hari tu kita dapat tengok selepas Fizul Jai dapat masuk balik dalam kereta drift dia dapat performance yang agak baik. Tetapi yang dengan Michael dah dapat masuk balik kat Sepang, dah dapat race door to door. Rasa ada manfaat sikit tak? Ada macam sikit tak?
Ada. So cerita sikit lah pengalaman 2 hari lepas kita all out all day dekat Sepang 2 hari, Sabtu dengan Ahad. Jadi dia dah hilangkan kerinduan lah dekat Sepang. Jadi apa yang selama ni kita belajar dekat sim racing, saya cuba bawakan dekat Sepang, dan apa yang real driving punya experience saya cuba bawa dekat sim racing. So benda tu interrelated kalau ikutkan lah kan.
So ceritalah kan sikit apa result yang dapat.
Okay, result yang dapat minggu lepas, first kali yang paling best, champion untuk Super 1.5 NA, dan juga dapat overall in group nombor 3. Kalau ikutkan Waktu finish tu 4, tapi yang nombor 1 tu kena penalti 15 saat. So dia jadi overall untuk Chel dapat nombor 3 dan untuk dalam kelas nombor 1 lah. Dan itu untuk hari yang pertama, hari Sabtu. Untuk hari yang kedua, hari pertama pun MCS Chel dapat Chel dengan BP Chu dapat tempat yang kelima dalam kategori SP2 membawa Honda Jazz. Dan juga hari yang kedua kurang bernasib baik di kategori Ultimate Touring. Chel membawa kereta FD. Chel DNF seawal lap yang ketiga di hit yang kedua. Ada masalah teknikal dan masih lagi investigate kenapa. Apa-apa pun kita move on dan kita cuba buat yang terbaik di masa akan datang lah. Dan di kategori SP2 MCS Chel dapat tempat yang keempat.
So boleh kirakan ada yang sukses jugalah.
Adalah juga apa hadiah buah tangan.
Adalah balik kena kunci kat luar je lah.
Betul.
Kalau kena kunci kat luar, kau duduk lah bilik SIM kau. Chel, so pengalaman kau dengan Paduka pun lebih kurang Paduka, tapi Paduka tak race MSF
MSF rasanya dibawa Saga, tak tahu, tak pasti.
Rasanya tak ada
Dia
ke?
kalau tak silap bawa Swift tu kan.
Swift tu MCS.
MCS ya.
So dia pun pairing dengan Azlan Shah kan. So tu
dengan Azlan Shah.
gandingan yang hebat juga.
Betul.
So Chel, untuk apa ni, yalah macam tadi Matt cakap kan, apa tu, penggunaan SIM ni mungkin dia muscle memory dia tu boleh praktis masuk ke real life lah rasanya.
Untuk bahagian racing line dan juga racing line lah, dia punya apa yang utamanya memang boleh bawa masuk. Tapi bila dah masuk dalam kereta betul, dia punya fear tu lain. Dalam si racing ni kita tak ada faktor fear, tapi dalam kereta betul faktor fear. Bila kereta oversteer apa semua, kita lain. Macam Chel first time bawa FD yang spec Ultimate Touring tu. Dia ada sedikit takut. Dia bukan macam waktu Chel bawa Kelisa. Chel dah dalam kereta tu dah biasa, so tak ada takut langsung, tak ada gemuruh pun. Tapi bila dalam FD tu kita gemuruh. Lagi tu sebab first time dan juga itu bukan kereta Chel. Chel cuma memandu saja. Jadi dia banyak faktor. Bila racing yang betul ni banyak faktor. Bukan mudah untuk seseorang sim racing tu adapt cepat, tapi dia tengok lagi faktor crew, faktor team, faktor preparation, banyak lagi lah apa bila kita kata pasal real racing ni. Bukan semata-mata kereta laju ataupun pemandu laju. Preparation dan banyak benda-benda lain lagi yang perlu dia ambil kira.
Lagi satu faktor Chel, macam dari segi awareness, macam apa tu, yalah keliling kita kan, kereta-kereta sekeliling tu ada tak gunanya dekat real life?
Ada. So kita lebih aware, nak kata macam mana, bila kita main yang AIMC ni, daripada mula lagi kita dah dipupuk dengan awareness to be safe driving kan. Jangan melembu. Jadi bila bawa ke real driving pun masih terbawa benda tu. Kita cuba elakkan sebanyak mungkin pelanggaran yang kita tak nak lah. Macam tu lah. Sorry kalau cakap kuat. Sebenarnya dalam headphone ni tengah tengok on board Ipin bawa.
Okey, tak apa. Kau ada stint lagi ke depan ni?
Tak ada dah. Ipin akan habiskan 2 stint ni. 2 ataupun 3 ni. Tadi Ilham dah buat 3, Cil buat 2, mungkin Ipin 2 atau 3 macam tu lah.
Baru fair.
Yeah.
Cil, apa tu FD tu breakdown tu dekat tengah race
Betul,
straight
tengah fight dengan kereta Wenso. Cil tengah cuba mengejar kereta Wenso. Dan berlaku breakdown dekat turn yang ke-11. So berhenti dekat turn ke-13 macam tu.
Okey, apa-apa pun Cil, tahniah. So
Terima kasih lah, terima kasih Mac.
Dan harap hari ni pun membuahkan hasil juga.
Kita cuba, kita tengok. Kita tak tahu result dia
Kita
macam-macam
tengok
jadi.
Kita intai sikit pit stop dorang. Sekarang ada yang nombor 1 dengan nombor 2 masih belum pit stop lagi. So kalau dorang feel safe pun rasanya masih ada memang definitely lah dorang kena pit lagi lah ni kan. Sebelum habis race ni berapa, ada lagi dalam setengah jam lagi.
Ada lagi 28 minit.
Dalam nota saya, Auto House FCR dengan tim LT Black due for pit stop paling panjang pun 2 lap. Itu pun kalau dia feel safe. So
kita tengok dia punya JJ punya time. Sekarang ni last lap dia 2.38. Sama, lebih kurang lah dengan Pang pun maybe around that same pace, right? So mungkin dalam lap 44 lah. Lepas lap ni, lap lagi satu. Itu kalau matematik saya lepas lah, tapi kadang matematik saya fail juga. So Ipin dia kena ni Cil, dia kena calculate enough fuel untuk habiskan race nanti kan, untuk last stint.
Ya betul.
Sorry, Ilham akan masuk balik kan, untuk last stint.
Tak, Ipin akan habiskan.
Oh okey. So dia kena calculate congak betul lah. Dah ramai dah start masuk. Cik Hon Pang dah masuk. Dan tinggal sekarang ni tinggal JJ ni gila lah. Memang JJ strategi lah ni.
So ini memang battle of strategy. Dia bukan battle of fast driver. Dia battle of strategy. So kita tengok strategi siapa yang akan berjaya. Memang mendebarkan ni.
Okay, kita tengok kat mana Ipin sekarang.
Ipin dekat last turn.
Dia akan masuk ke tempat yang kedua. Into second place for Saiful Arifin.
Sekarang dia ada 22 second gap dengan JJ. Kita tengok macam mana JJ punya cara pula dalam remaining 20 lebih minit lagi ni. Apa lagi aktiviti Cil sebagai real racer akan sepanjang 2020 ni lagi?
Cil akan teruskan dengan sim racing ni, dengan AIMC ni. Dan juga kita akan prepare untuk tahun depan lah. So apa perlombaan yang akan kita masuk, dan juga kita dah start buat kalender untuk 2021.
Baik. So Toda ini support sentiasa baik, bagus. Memang terbaik lah. Memang kenalah dengan branding dia, apa tu, Langgar apa dia tagline dia Cil?
Dia ada 2 tagline dia ada langgar dan breaking the limit. Langgar tu maknanya bila seseorang tu nakkan sesuatu tu, dia akan buat apa saja yang ada kat depan tu, cuba untuk usaha buat apa saja untuk dapatkan apa yang dia nak tu. So itulah dia punya Toda tu punya makna.
Okay Cil, thank you sedia untuk luangkan masa kat konti ni. So
okey lah, terima kasih.
Okay, so bagi support lah kat team tu, kena salam kat orang.
Alright.
Alright.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Just have to pull him back into his team.
Did you escort him back?
Yeah, I escorted him back.
Okay,
so, yeah.
Dante's guys. So you might wanna try to catch him up. Where are they in the leaderboards?
Right now they're down in 12th position. They're in the pits. So we'll see where they are once they come out of the pits. The teams right now, I'm noticing they're actually pitting at different laps. So it's
already
starting to
spent
get-
out already.
Yeah.
Mm.
So it'll be very interesting
Yeah,
indeed to
and
see.
JJ
And Outhouse
after
is in the pits. Yes, Jason Jolly is in the pits as well. So this could be very interesting indeed.
let's see where's Ipin. Ipin just pass him there.
Unfortunately, JJ didn't quite get enough of a gap to get into the pits and get out again in time, but he might do so for the next time. So it's all about whether JJ can pull out the gap, but he's going to be battling against Cypher Arifin, which is going to be very difficult indeed.
Yeah, we'll see if the JJ strategy gets a success on this race.
Absolutely, and it's going to be critical for Outhouse FCR as well as Jazrin Jali, because that's going to have huge implications to the championship, not only to the team's championship but also to JJ's chances as well. He needs a very good result in order to battle with the guys ahead and to make sure he secures his place coming into the final round, which is going to be very exciting indeed as well. Looking at the championship standings, there are quite a few drivers who are still in with a chance of getting that position. But right now, Cypher Arifin has gained back that first place. They've led basically, barring pit stops, all throughout the race. And so Jazrin Jali comes out in 6th place. You can see he's pushing the car very hard out of the pits just to try and push as much.
Is it possible for JJ to maintain this load of fuel until the race finish?
That 20 minutes to go, it might be possible. So this could be another factor as well. 24 minutes, that's roughly 10 laps, 11 laps to go right now. If he decides to fuel save a lot and try and play that long game, he could do so, or he could choose to come in just for fuel, just for 4 or 5 laps worth of fuel. The Toyota Motorsports team will have to pit for sure, but they do have a pace advantage right now. So they're over 40 seconds ahead on the road. In fact, they are almost a pit stop's worth ahead. So if Jazrin Jali can avoid another pit stop by driving as smooth as possible and save as much time as possible, he might be able to do something. Or the other option he can have is, if he's short-filled the car with a much lighter fuel load, brand new tires, going to push the car as hard as possible. So we're going to have a look at his lap times in a couple of laps time, just to see what's going to happen there. But it looks like Toyot's in the pits, so this could be another move. It looks like Cypher Arifin's last lap was a 2:35, which is very fast.
So he's not pushing that hard, but he's same time trying to conserve fuel. But this is getting a bit of a mystery, so we'll see how it turned out.
Well,
Yeah.
from my calculations, this might mean that Cypher Arifin, if he fills up with a full tank right now, there is a possibility that he could finish the race. But it's a big question mark right now. Freddie Ang also isn't out of the race as well, because he is, strategically speaking, still in the battle as well. So there's 3 cars right now that, depending on how their strategies pan out, could win the race, and that is the TBRT Black car that's currently in the lead, the Toyota Motorsports car, and the Outhouse FCR car of Jazrin Jali, who is, I believe, up ahead here. Yes, so Jazrin Jali is now in 3rd position. Toyota Motorsports had to dive into the pits just to make sure that pit stop is going to come out. He is definitely filling just for fuel there. That was a very short pit stop from Cypher Arifin. Now he's going to get out of there, and it looks like he might be, he's only within a few seconds of the Outhouse FCR performance car, so that's forced. The Toyota Motorsports strategy has forced the ball into Outerhouse's court, so it's all down to whether Outerhouse FCR performance can squeeze 10 laps out of their fuel load. Very interesting stuff indeed.
So JJ is currently having stress by Ruben. I think sorry. I think JJ is being stressed out by Pang right now. So
Yeah.
he needs to keep cool.
Yeah.
And maybe drive a maybe a quite a defensive line. He needs to secure his position also, right?
Absolutely, and he also has to keep in mind that Chok Van Pang has been following the strategies of the cars up ahead, and he also, if all three cars had a failure in terms of strategy, he also might be in a position to do something.
This is the drama of
Yeah.
endurance racing. So all the leaderboard positions are not definitely in order. So it all
Absolutely.
comes up to the last lap, and see how the remaining few left. And I
And
hope
now-
they all finish with enough fuel.
Yeah, that's going to be the other thing as well. TBRT Black right now, the ball is in their court in a sense as well, because they have a 43-second advantage to the car behind them, and a further 5-second advantage to this car here. So there could be a chance for TBRT Black to have a splash and dash at this critical point in the race. There's less than 20 minutes to go. In fact, there's about 18 minutes, I
Yeah.
would guess.
How
So,
about you go run over to Dante's cafe?
Yeah.
Try to
We'll
search for Zaino if he's available. I think
Let's see.
he swapped
Who's in
drivers
the-
already.
Who's in the car right now?
Ishad.
Ishad.
Yeah.
All right. So I will quickly run over and see if we can find him.
Can you bring me a few sandwiches?
Yeah, definitely.
I need some supper.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll be waiting here and filling up your space.
Right.
Meantime. Meanwhile, we have Freddie Ang leading the leaderboards with a 43-second gap of time between him and Padawan. So close battles here. We can see Blackpink driven by Chok Fung Pang, which is following Jazzy Jali for quite a number of laps already, and this is quite a strategy of him trying to conserve fuel in the meantime, maintaining his position. JJ, I think, is not that too worried about this, because they are doing it quite very healthily. So how's the Dante's Cafe doing there?
It seems a little bit busy right now, so I'll perhaps get your order in after the race.
All right. So
There's teams up and down the leaderboard right now having some intense discussions with their teammates. The main critical thing, of course, is going to be the fuel consumption. That's going to be a real critical factor coming into the end of the race, because there's a lot of positions to be gained if some of the drivers don't quite make it. And it looks like some of the drivers might only make it with just the least amount of fuel left in the cars.
This is the final 20 minutes of the race, and I think we cannot disturb them already. They're maybe on. They need the full support of their teammates right now in their rooms. So
Yeah, absolutely.
let's see how Rap Roda is doing. It's quite okay. Since doing, he just did 7 stops. This is all due to the earlier crash at lap 1. I hope they can recover with a top 10 position in this. Interestingly, for all these guys, all these finishers will score major points for their achievement, and definite I think above 5 points each. I think I don't remember the point schedule. Are you getting any video feed from me? No?
Absolutely, yes. I've just again accidentally turned my mute on. I've got a table full of notes and little bits of paper right now, trying to work this all out. It's almost like I'm back in my usual day job, which is team manager. So,
What was Charles last lap? 3:47.
Perhaps he might have gone to the pits. It looks like that looks
Maybe,
like a pit.
yeah.
pit lap.
50-second, 1 minute and 10-second pit stop is quite logic.
Yeah, so they must have had a bit of a change.
Okay.
And Calvin Ha has gone into the pits. But I was just going to say that those two drivers have done a fantastic job for their teams, as well as Sharon Norafudin's the previous driver that was in Sharon Norafudin's seat of Indigent. They did very well as well, considering that both the 778 car and the RAB Pro Drag machine both had some fairly large accidents at the earlier point of the race. For them to be running up there in this case 8th place, and Alpha has dropped down to 11th place, it's actually quite amazing. It just goes to show you can never give up in endurance racing, because even though you have a setback early on in the race, you can still make it up, even in a race that is in endurance terms fairly short. So it does pay to keep the car rolling. Now the TBRT Black car definitely are in a bit of a position now. Well, the TBRT Black and the Outer House FCR Performance Team A car, both those guys are in a situation where realistically it's all going to be down to fuel consumption, and not a lot has been said about Padawan SRCB, who are in second position.
What's up with them, right?
So that's Taufik Tahir. Yeah, that's Taufik Tahir, and just as I suspected, they're going in for a splash and dash. 2 hours and 11 minutes out of 2 hours and 24 minutes
They
to
need
go.
a fuel enough for 4 to 5 laps, right?
Exactly. So this is going to be very critical pit stop. See how high they go how many positions they can maintain. But right now it is the situation where we're starting to see drivers having to pit at the last possible moment, and this could potentially bring the race back to Toyota Motorsport's hands. Now the next question mark is here. Freddie Ang for Team URT Black, do they have enough fuel to finish the race? I suspect that they might be running it very fine indeed. So that's your conundrum right now. Toyota Motorsports, for sure, they have enough fuel to finish the race. They've done their splash and dash quite early on. They've worked out well in advance that they needed that extra pit stop. But Team URT Black and Outer House FCR Performance Team A, those top three right now are the drivers that have the potential to win the race right now. And in fact, for Outer House FCR Performance Team A, this could become a moot point, because the Toyota Motorsports guys are right behind them, racing for position. Saiful Arifin is now racing Jezrin Jali. It looks like Jezrin Jali had to lift off quite a bit in order to try and fuel save it, but now they are now in a battle for position. This tends to happen towards an end of an endurance race when all the strategies converge, and it looks like Saiful Arifin has managed to make that move through Puhon for position. So Jezrin Jali has moved down into third position, and it looks like they might have to either pit or really fuel save right now and try and consolidate a podium position. Meanwhile, all eyes are on the cars in these three positions. And it looks like Team URT Black has made the call to go into the pits. Freddie Ang has to come into the pits now. It looks like they've just realized that they have not enough fuel to finish the race. 2 hours 13 minutes into a 2 hours 34 minutes race. This is a very, very late pit stop indeed. This is definitely not scheduled, but it looks like they've just about run out of fuel. So right now this is the battle for the lead effectively. Of course, Freddie Ang will try and pit as short as possible, but it looks like the Toyota Motorsports and the Outer House FCR team will be able to catch up. They've only got 2 corners between themselves and the pits, and it looks like Team URT Black has been moved back a position in terms of the race. So this is absolutely edge of your seat stuff. It looks like, barring any catastrophe, that Toyota Motorsports has managed to outfox their rivals. Will they be able to keep that lead going though? It looks like Jezrin Jali has to go around for another lap. They're perhaps trying to make that car go all the way to the end of the race, but Freddie Ang wasn't able to do so, and Saiful Arifin decided to pit earlier and undercut any of those possible opportunities. But now, just have a look at that leaderboard. Total Motorsports is ahead by 1.5 seconds from Outer House FCR Performance Team A. TBRT Blackpink is in third position, 2.2 seconds behind, and TBRT Black is in fourth, 1.4 seconds behind. You can see all 4 cars are now on the Camel Straight. They'll both be in this complex, the Lecom complex through Malmundi. You can just about almost see the top 3 in your screens right now. And now it's all down to this man, Saiful Arifin. And it looks like Freddie Ang is trying to go as quickly as possible. That looks like team tactics to me. There was a team order there definitely to let the other car go past and try and gain that position up again. And now Freddie Ang has the job of trying to push as hard as possible and try to gain that position back. So it's really going to be a very, very close end to the race. The strategies have converged. We can see that the 2 TBRT cars have come out in a very good position in terms of strategy. The Outer House FCR Performance Team A perhaps struggling just a little bit with fuel consumption, but they're in second position. They're going to have one eye up ahead and one eye behind them. And it looks like Total Motorsports has managed to, against all odds, retake the lead at this late stage of the race. This is going to be very exciting because all the cars are beginning to collect at the end of the race. Saiful Arifin there pushing the car pretty hard there. His last lap was a 2:35.295, so he's going to be pushing that car as hard as it'll go until the end of the race. But he's got one eye on the fuel gauge as well, just as all the other drivers have. They've all pitted to try and put the minimum amount of fuel they think they need in order to save the time at the pit stops. But now at the end of the race, it looks like it might all be for all of that strategic machinations from all the other cars. And it looks like the Blackpink car has had to come into the pits. Chok Fan Pang has gone into the pits, and it looks like he is yet another driver that has to take that splash and dash right at the end of the race. Meanwhile, Saiful Arifin is still in the lead there, but you can see Jazrin Jali in the background. He overtook JJ for the lead. He might have a bit of a pace advantage in comparison to the Outer House team, but you can see them, they're all very close to each other, and the TBRT Black car of Freddie Ang is closing up to this battle as well, and in fact they're very close to the Outer House team. So could Freddie Ang spring a surprise from the back of the field? Could JJ hold Freddie Ang off for second place? These questions and more will be answered very shortly indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be a very exciting end to the race.
We're entering the final 6 minutes of the race, 6 plus maybe half a lap, something like that. So
Yep.
it should be around 7 to 8 minutes.
So that's 2 laps basically, maybe 3 if they start the final lap right on the buzzer there. And it looks like Team URT Black has managed to make that overtaking maneuver work, and now they're within touching distance of the Total Motorsports car. This is going to be absolutely exciting. The end of the race is nigh. There's only a handful of laps left. Jazrin Jali did the best he possibly could to try and maintain his position, but unfortunately it looks like he has gone into third place, and it looks like Freddie Ang is right behind Saiful Arifin. This is the battle for the lead. This is going to be absolutely exciting stuff here, and it looks like Freddie Ang has got the run up the outside going into Blanchimont. Unfortunately, he's not able to do anything about that. He's still trying as hard as possible. It looks like Freddie Ang might have gone on to fresher tyres while he was in his pit stop, so that might be what changes the complexion of this race for the Total Motorsports team. Saiful Arifin dives into the inside to try and defend his position. He maintains that lead there, but he's gone a little bit wide there, and it looks like Freddie Ang is going to try and out-drag Saiful Arifin coming down into La Source. They're side by side. Who is going to take that braking zone coming into La Source there? And it looks like Freddie Ang is able to get into the lead there, but no, they touch! And
that's quite unfortunate there.
That is unbelievable. Freddie Ang looks like he had coming into the braking zone there. Let's have a look from another angle. Saiful Arifin coming into the braking zone there, and Freddie Ang is on the outside. And unfortunately, it looks like Freddie Young tried to turn in just a little bit too early, and unfortunately that has taken both the drivers out there and put the Outhouse FCR Performance Team A car back into the lead. That is Jezrin Jali in the lead. Saiful Arifin is in second place. He's going to try and push that car as hard as possible. 2 hours and 20 minutes have gone. There's only 4 minutes, 3.5 minutes to go. At the end of this lap, this would be the penultimate lap of the race. The next lap will be the final lap of the race, and that is absolutely unbelievable stuff going around that first corner. That's absolutely amazing end to the race there. And it looks like JJ might have just had this race handed to him on a plate. Unbelievable stuff there. And it looks like Saiful Arifin is losing just a little bit of pace.
Maybe some damage.
Yep, that looks like he might have had a little bit of damage there. His car seems to be tracking okay. Let's see if now Jezrin Jali, he had to fuel save a little bit in the end of that mini stint, so to speak. But that is an amazing turn of events. The top three have reshuffled, and now Jezrin Jali is in the lead. Will he be able to hold on to the lead for the last dying minutes of the race? It's going to be a 2.5 minute to the end of the race. This might just be the last lap of the race there.
JJ is the only one who's on 5 stops. Huh.
That
yeah,
is
that's all. Yeah,
unbelievable.
there's also Blackpink and Auto House B.
So yeah.
And Dante
So of the
is
drivers, all the drivers who have done 5 stops, and it looks like Jezrin Jali has been the man to try and make this 5-stop strategy work. But it looks like the Toyota Motorsports car is starting to catch. This is absolutely nail-biting stuff, and don't forget Freddie Ang in the background there. He's going to try and push as hard as possible in order to catch these 2 drivers up ahead. Now through La Source, and now going down the hill into the bottom of this valley into Eau Rouge, the Red River that is at the bottom of this track here. There's the bridge that goes through it, through Radion, and up onto Kemmel Straight. Both drivers straight lining the chicane as much as possible. And it looks like both drivers are in with the shout of the race. They're going down the Kemmel Straight, and it looks like Saiful Arifin has managed to get a massive tow out of Jezrin Jali. Will he be able to outbrake Jezrin coming into Lecom? No, he does not. This is going to be absolutely incredible stuff here, and it looks like they might take this to another lap, but they might also finish this on lap 53. So this is at the dying moments of the race. This is absolutely spectacular stuff here. Jezrin Jali is in the lead, but Saiful Arifin is right behind him. It looks like the TBRT black car has backed right off. Perhaps that was a fuel, perhaps not enough fuel in that car to try and make it to the end there, but it looks like the Toyota Motorsports car is getting closer and closer. 0.2 of a second separate Jezrin Jali from Saiful Arifin. That is less than a blink of an eye, ladies and gentlemen, coming into the Fanyas chicane. Very close to the, you can see there's less than a car's width between those 2 drivers. This could be very exciting indeed. There is one
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, next lap. I think we have another lap after this.
I believe that might be it, actually, because we have run out of time. So this could be the final lap of the race. This could be the last chance for these 2 drivers going side by side. Will Saiful Arifin be able to try and make an overtaking maneuver coming into Blanchimont? They're side by side going through there. That's absolutely tense driving into the braking zone there. Jezrin Jali has the inside line, but now Saiful Arifin has the inside line coming into the chicane there. They're going to go hard on the brakes. The checkered flag is out. This will determine the finish of the race. They touch, and it looks like Jezrin Jali has managed to make it work by only a few tenths of a second. 1.0.
0.167 seconds between the two drivers, but Jazrin Jali has managed to take it home for Outer House FCR Performance Team A. Toda Motorsports is in second position, and Team URT Black is in third. As quickly as I can say those words, that was an incredible finish to the race there. Chop Fun Hung, a well-deserved fourth place finish for Team URT Blackpink. They come across the line 30 seconds behind in fourth position, and Outer House FCR Performance Team B come across the line in fifth. Wow, that was an absolutely incredible last lap to the race. Nazmi Mazli now coming across the line in sixth place. He comes across and gives a little bit of a wingtip to his crew there on the start-finish straight. Meanwhile, Ruben Wong, an absolutely dogged, determined drive to get up into seventh place, and it looks like Sharanora Fudin has run out of fuel right at the last lap. He's going to have to come into the pits just to try and crawl across the line there. Iman Danish is on his way out. Will Iman Danish be able to get... No, he's finished. Rab Projag have finished. Toyota Motorsports Revolution on their way to a top 10 finish. Iman Danish has done as much as he possibly could to get that car as high up the leaderboard as possible. And there they are coming across the line. It's going to be Toyota Motorsports Revolution in 9th place, followed by Android King Toyota SSAD in 10th. As we see Kalvinder Singh, who's also tried his hardest to get that car up into the points position. He's still got to take home quite a few points from this round. But, wow. The finish to the race, the last 3 laps, is absolutely amazing.
They all sum up there at the last few laps.
Yeah, it looked at 3 different points in that last 10 minutes of the race that 3 different drivers could take it home for the win. It looked...
I wonder what happened to Dante's.
Now we see Dante's Toyota Motorsports. They're either in the pits or they've gone off somewhere. Car 14 is
out.
13th place. Car is in the pits, I believe. But Afiq Fadlan manages to bring that 778 Autosport car home in 12th position. You'll have to be happy with that. And that is the cars across the line. So, ladies and gentlemen, that was an amazing race.
Okay, Matt. We're nearing the end. But, okay, before, while we browse through the results, we're going to play back the national anthem. There you go. Thank you. Finally, a good national anthem.
Absolutely. And as the dying strings of Negaraku, the national anthem of Malaysia, play out, and we just have to say that was an absolutely fantastic race for the guys. But congratulations to Jazru Jali of the Outer House FCR Garage team. And also congratulations to all the other drivers who've managed to make it to the finish of the race. It has been an absolutely entertaining race from all sides. I can see there the incident that perhaps decided the fate of the race in favour of Jasmine Jolly. He backed off out of any sort of manoeuvre there, and it looks like the two cars of Saiful Arifin and Freddie Ang got tangled up at the first hairpin, and that might have been the point where Todak Motorsports lost the race and Outer House FCR won it. And that was at the very last moments of the race. So, like I've been saying, with these endurance races, everything comes down to the finish, and it's absolutely spectacular racing indeed. But you can see there, Freddie Ang had a lot of pace in comparison to Saiful Arifin coming into the bus stop chicane here, and unfortunately, again, Jasmine Jolly was also very close. He could have perhaps maybe made a move going into the bus stop chicane there, but he backed off a little bit coming up through there. It was side by side going into La Source, trying desperately to break each other, and unfortunately that was just a clip from the car behind on the car ahead, and that meant that Jasmine Jolly was able to sweep around the outside of both of them and take the lead of the race, just with 3 laps to go or so. Amazing stuff.
Let's just go through the results once more. Okay.
Yes, indeed. So now the the provisional results, I should say, for the Adrenaline Impact iRacing Malaysia Championship Season 2, Round 5, the Merdeka Spa Endurance Race, are as follows. Todak Motorsports have... Wait. Isn't it?
Aha! What happened here?
Jasmine Jolly is supposed to be in the lead, but I can't find him anywhere on the...
Maybe he had a black flag.
That changes things
That could
quite
be.
a bit.
That could be a possibility. Let me load up the results from the server. Aha! Where's our Paduka? Paduka, where are you, Paduka?
So we're going to try and figure this out. Perhaps it might be because we're on the replays at the moment, but
this is definitely fine. I think so. Should be final. Let me get the provisional from the server. Maybe could be a glitch.
So we're just trying to sort that out there. But that's going to be drama right at the end of the race if there was anything that went wrong with the Outer House team.
Let me try to load it. Okay, results are out, and let me get the lobby view. Okay, let me get something to load here. Okay, from what I'm seeing, yeah, it is the results of what we're seeing. You know why Team FCRA is at 4th?
I'm not too sure.
They had a black flag, car contact, at the last lap, lap 53. So that contact caused JJ a black flag and lost his 3 positions there.
Wow, that is a big loss, because that means that Jasmine Jolly does not in fact win the race. Of course, the results are provisional. I do like to make that clear. We will have a stewards meeting and all the usual stuff at the end of the race, but that is quite surprising. So the provisional race results, I'll read them out again once more. Todak Motorsports appear to be the winner, 2.2 seconds ahead of Team URT Black. Yes, after 2 hours and 24 minutes of racing, it was that close between the top 2. So Todak Motorsports first, Team URT Black in second, Team URT Black Pink in third, Outer House FCR Performance Team A in fourth, Outer House FCR Performance Team B in fifth place, followed by Padawan SRC B, TBRT, Pink, Todak Motorsports Revolution, Rab, ProDrag Esports, Android King, Todak SSED, Padawan SLC A, FR 778 Autosport, Club Automobilista, Hermanos Veloces, Dante's Todak Motorsports, Android King, and Todak Motorsports Asia.
Wow, that really turns things around, huh?
Absolutely.
Oh, where's our steward? I think this is could be a handful for him, but all these are automated by iRacing. Then
Yeah.
it's way beyond our control. So it's a good thing that iRacing enforces this. We only have to just to attend to protest on one-on-one cars that
Yeah.
iRacing doesn't detect. So I
Yes.
hope that everybody remain calm. We have I think 60 minutes or 30 minutes of protest window.
I'm not too sure.
I think
you'll
it
have to
closes
ask
at 12. So please, if you wanna submit your protest, do it before 12. And we also have the best battle. Can you kick it away?
Well, yes, the Best Battle Award is going to go out for this race. This is something that we've introduced in the previous round of the series there. Each participant in the Best Battle Award is going to get a 50 ringgit voucher from Precision Sim Racing, I believe, right?
Yeah. So,
So-
we've published the links in the WhatsApp group. I haven't yet to publish it on the website yet. I'll try to do it by tonight. But the closing for this submission is should be tomorrow. I think around noon. So you
Right.
guys can concentrate more on the process first, or just getting a big rest for a long weekend to get to work tomorrow first.
Absolutely. So, just what was it? You have to submit the lap, the drivers
it's
involved.
exactly like submitting a protest.
Yep,
Yeah.
and
Get ready
If you
your
can-
RPY file.
Yep, and get your RPY files in, and we'll see, because there's been some very entertaining battles throughout the race there. So do get your submissions in, and we will hopefully be able to get some very interesting things to have a look at during the post-race show. I am sure I'll be there for sure, and there's a lot of things to cover in this race.
Okay, here's what happened. I think JJ went invalid. Maybe he did heat contact, or maybe it was a yellow.
Perhaps it was a yellow, and that's going to be very interesting indeed. It looks like Saiful Arif did back off quite a bit, perhaps expecting Freddie Arm to go past, but instead he saw Jasmine Jali go past him as well. So very interesting stuff for the stewards, and we know Paducah is going to have a long night ahead of him to try and review that in the race. So special thanks to all of our commentators. So yeah, Faiz Mohammed, thank you for the amazing race. Thank you for the amazing fans that make this racing possible. I do want to thank all the fans that have been out there as well. Thanks to Izwan Jamil and Zainul Hazim and all the other guys who have liked, followed and shared the stream amongst their friends and spreading the sim racing message around. So a special thanks to you guys. Without you guys, we really can't have this absolutely amazing race.
Speaking of Ang Brothers, Gilbert raced for the MSF Ultimate Race Car Open yesterday and won. He drove the Seat Cupra, I think.
Yeah, and that was, I believe, the Viper Niza Racing Seat Cupra.
Yeah, that one's designed ultimately for long-lasting races.
Yeah.
So should be no problem for 1 hour and a half runs. And
Absolutely.
it was a good clean run of the battle. Sadly, there was a battle with him with Faizil Alang, and the EG turbo of Faizil just couldn't keep his gearbox together, and they failed. And magically, they got a fix just enough to finish third.
Wow. So that's a pretty good car. Pretty good mechanics working on that car as well.
Yeah, 22 Pro
And-
Shop is very
Yeah.
good on handling this issue. They've done it before. I've seen it with my own eyes. Gearbox change is just like a shirt change for them.
Yeah.
and
Perhaps they need to get.
Yeah, Faisal was the happiest person I think yesterday just to finish the race. They didn't give up. They were just next to us, the JR Speed pit. Seeing them, the teamwork there very good. Very good teamwork, and that really proves endurance racing is not what you what you expect it to be.
Yeah.
If you have a failure, do fix your car. If you were in iRacing, if you have massive repair times, just finish it, and you may be up to score points afterwards also. Yeah.
Absolutely. As you can see there with the 778 and Rad Pro Drag teams, they did not give up. They tried their best, and in the end, they actually did quite well for themselves, considering. So, yeah, that's the trick with endurance racing, is to never give up. The only time you're ever going to retire from a race is if the engine blows up and the driver has been arrested.
I just want to review back the race start because we were distracted by our lovely Negaraku that time. But I apologize for the improper timing, but my OBS timing was off. And the pace lap was very quick, and the grading was quick. That was kudos to them for getting ready and on the grid. They usually take 2 minutes to get in the car, but this time they did it under 30 seconds.
That was probably the most amazing part of all throughout this race, because normally there is a little bit of a lag when they're trying to get into the grid and try and start the race, but this time around it just bang straight away. But let's have a look at the start then. It looks like the Rad Pro Drag car had a contact with a couple of other cars there, and again 5 into 1 does not go, and unfortunately that meant that the Rad Pro Drag car started sort of on the back foot there a little bit. So we're going to see Sharon Orfudin on the blimp camera. Let's see if we can get a bit of
pokok ni kacau lah.
So yeah, that was 4 cars wide, and fortunately it looked like
oh, they bumped to each other.
Yeah,
and
there was contact,
some ping pong action,
and unfortunately that sent Sharon Orfudin offline and into the path of other cars there. So that's going to be a very perhaps a little bit of a bad start to the race, but they managed to make up for it quite well. But perhaps it would have been a little bit of a pity, because the Rad Pro Drag team looked like they were going very quickly around Spa. Perhaps it was another case of what might have been. They took out one of the outer house cars there, which is another car that was quite amazingly got themselves back up the field. You can see the outer house car going around La Source backwards, and they managed to recover from that race there. You can see them all the way up the back, and they managed to climb their way up to 4th or 3rd, depending on what car that was. And again,
okay.
down.
Eddie Adrian, selamat Hari Merdeka AI. Thank you, Eddie. Our was he the rookie of season 1? Yeah,
Yes,
he was.
I
Yeah.
was. Rookie of the year.
Rookie of the season. You maybe we should do a rookie of the year.
Perhaps at the end of the race, at the end of the season rather. I do apologize, my Monster Energy has in fact run out. So.
Oh. So
It ran
Kelvin,
out.
okay, you can read out other comments from Kelvin T.
Yes, thanks for hosting Adrenaline Impact. What a race. Happy Merdeka to all. Thanks, Kelvin. We're going to have a lot of fun reviewing that race in the post-race show, I am sure. And Nazmi Mazli has said, good job, guys. Thanks a lot. And good job to all the racers out there who have done a very great job in this race. Absolutely nice, clean, fun battles out there. A couple of incidents, which is unfortunate, but inevitable in a race of this length, I would say. But very, very good stuff indeed. Shami Aizam comments, Selamat Hari Merdeka, tough race for Rad Pro Drag. And yeah, I will have to agree with that. Last to ace though, that was a very good performance there from Rad Pro Drag. And just a special thanks there to Surin Selvaraju, who took some time out of his stint to like the stream, along with Muhammad Orima Isa. Thanks guys for all the support we've had throughout the course of this week, this weekend, this season, and this year.
Okay, that sums up this endurance race. We hope you guys had a good time, and definitely a good race and clean one.
Yeah.
We hope that you guys can stay tuned for round 6, our finale, and we'll be announcing the championship prizes as a surprise within this week from our sponsors. So thanks to Works Engineering, thanks to Lucas Oil, Precision Sim Racing, and Android King, and also MAM Motorsports. Can you give a brief about, for those who doesn't know, what and who is MAM Motorsports?
So, the Motorsports Association of Malaysia, they are the sanctioning body for motor racing all throughout Malaysia, not only in circuit racing but in rallying, gymkhanas and drag racing, all the rest of that good stuff. They are the FIA representatives here in Malaysia, and they make sure that we have some fantastic racing on the calendar. They're also the license givers, if you will. They issue licenses out to the real-life racing drivers, and it's fantastic to see that they've come into esports and sort of showed their support in e-sim, especially in sim racing. So fantastic stuff from Motorsports Association of Malaysia, our sanctioning body for real-life motorsports.
Okay, so it's gonna be a long night for the steward's room.
Absolutely. So
I hope it's not gonna be a long night because tomorrow is a working day.
Yeah.
And okay, from Syarul Norfudin, awesome job AIMC and awesome race by all participants. Happy Merdeka to all. Happy Merdeka semua. Merdeka, 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 and 60 more times. So 63.
Yeah. So absolutely, as we celebrate another Merdeka Day, Malaysia getting ever more prosperous by the day. I guess all that remains for me to say is to thank our sponsors. Works Engineering do a fantastic line of accessories and tuning components for your cars. Their Outlaw 6-bar boost gauges and oil pressure gauges, absolutely fantastic products, as well as their fuel regulators, which I use quite often indeed. And also special thanks to Lucas Oil, who are very big in American motorsports. Their tagline, "It works." And yes, I have used them quite a bit. I used to run a car with a 6.2 litre Chevy V8 here in Malaysia, and those guys make a nice line of products, especially for the big high horsepower V8s there. And their lubricants have been used in everything from endurance racing to the Baja 1000 off-road race, as well as stadium super trucks and oval racing as well. So that's Lucas Oil. Thanks to them, and thanks to Precision Sim Racing, who do a fantastic line of high-end equipment. I'm particularly really sort of envious of those fantastic pedals there. Calvin Ha is involved with that organization, and he's putting his experience into those products, so we know we're going to get a very good product out of the Precision Sim Racing camp. So I do definitely recommend checking those guys out, and also check out Android King. Special thanks to them as well. David Ujai is the man in charge of that operation, and they do a fantastic line in sim racing rigs. And they also have that wonderful Pandora's Box arcade machine, which is another thing that I might be eyeing up for in the future. But my wallet says no, but the heart says yes. What can you do? And again, special thanks to our sanctioning body here in Malaysia, the Motorsports Association of Malaysia, promoting motorsports and improving the racing community, not only in the real world, but also in sim racing as well. And a special thanks, of course, to our director, Khairul Alang, and to the guests we've had on stream, Kelvin T and Michael Hafiz. A special thanks to them for take time out of their race to have a chat with us throughout the event. That's been much appreciated. My name is Max Palmer, and I guess we will all see you later. Ta-ra.
Hi, I'm Matt from Interformula, and welcome to our Research and Development Center. We do all forms of research and development, all the way from designing and developing our own race cars to simulators to running cars in racing series and rallying all over the world. We also do a lot in the Asian Classic Car Championship, so do look out for us. For any information, do contact us with the number down below.